There I go for the last one, that's 3 years, it's been 9:30.
I just don't prefer to be. Why do you so?
Friends and family, it's a big group.
It's gotten extensively larger.
Yes, with your new job, you got a lot of friends. Me, I,
Well, I don't know if she calls us friends. but
we're in the
We're in
cupcake.
the we're in the cupcake acquaintance committee.
All I care about is cupcakes. That makes him happy.
I like a lot of frosting, but I'm not supposed to eat a lot of frosting.
German cupcakes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you should see some of the resumes that I've got, CDC director.
Oh.
The
Don't make you laugh.
frosting, oh, yeah. Yeah,
The
okay. Okay.
Mickey Mouse supply. or-
No, but there's some Mickey Mouse resumes. One guy's spent time in Ukraine, all kinds of different places. He's a doctor in philosophy, and he's like, oh, Jesus.
Huh.
What the hell are we doing with somebody like that? First of all, he'd want a 100% pay raise on year 2.
Oh, really?
Oh, 34 weeks. Imagine.
34 weeks, huh?
34 weeks.
Half the time.
One of the people that used to travel.
Advertising
on
10,000
government
less
dime.
per child,
I'm gonna look at this one.
right?
Yeah,
41 minus 27.
13,000 less.
13,000 less per child.
So it'd be like getting one for free.
Might want to just go ahead and buy an extra one.
Yeah, just.
We'll start someplace so we could maybe use it.
Yeah. We could.
You never know.
We got a building over here. We got to buy a generator for.
Well.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding. Well, maybe
You probably should
we
just buy
check in with them.
5 of them. After they give us a deal, if we buy 5.
See how much cheaper we can get for 5 of them.
Oh, well.
We buy 5 instead of just 4, kind of deal. But it is a hell of a deal if we buy 5 for the cost of 4.
Mid-American is Schleswig.
Jerry,
South Crawford.
do you know an Aaron Hudson?
Aaron Hudson, absolutely not. I have no idea who Aaron Hudson is.
Central Community.
Right.
Well, she claims to work for, or done stuff with West Central Community Action.
Pledge allegiance, I can say it twice.
That's why, that's why I was asking.
We got a minute yet. Just hang loose.
Like I said, it was nice out. I'm thinking maybe I'll get the last something for change twice.
What is this Echo Sword that we're all
When I
invited to the
did
meeting
this,
tonight?
when all
Oh,
the
yeah,
times
that's
have
right.
passed.
Where'd you get that?
The board will grant
There was
the
a, I
motion
think
to
we
allow
had
those
an email.
We did.
instructions.
Echo
No
Sword,
matter
it's
what.
supposed to be a council meeting
We're just
tonight.
getting.
Oh, it's,
Water.
I think, is that with Wayne or is that with?
Brad,
It's about water.
I don't know what he's got. I don't know what he's got.
Brad Hanson, y'all invited us all to the, I read it, but I couldn't, I didn't retain.
I
what-
shared the email. with Nate.
Yeah.
Yes, she
I
did.
read it, but I didn't retain what it
Yeah, I
said.
mean, we have
I'll look it up.
Right as you walk
Since I'm
I
late.
didn't think it was maybe necessary. to-
And that's where I assumed it was gonna be at, but then we said city hall, so, okay.
Should we roll, Jerry, before you sit down?
Yep, that's why.
All rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Always want to pray after that.
Thanks, everybody, for coming today. Enjoy having you. Call this
Always a
meeting to
pleasure.
order.
Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah.
I mean, there was an option.
No,
No one said.
it was not, it was a non-optional invitation.
Got it.
Everybody had a chance to review the agenda,
Yes, sir.
amended agenda,
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
and any conflicts of interest with that?
Not to the
Right.
best of my-
Here none, we'll proceed with the reading of the minutes.
November 29th, 2022, the Board of Supervisors met at 9 a.m. with Cal Schultz, Chairman, presiding. Members present were Hayden, Rossberg, Schultz, Skoog, and Vogt. Minutes of the previous meeting were read and approved at 10 a.m. as advertised. A motion was made by Vogt, seconded by Rossberg, to open the public hearing regarding vacating streets in Kenwood. Motion passed unanimously. There were no written or oral objections. A second public hearing to be set for a later date at 10:07 a.m. A motion was made by Vogt, second by Hayden, to close the hearing. Motion passed unanimously. Discussion was made with the board by Wendy Mueller from West Central Community Action, presenting their year in review and budget requests. A motion was made by Hayden, seconded by Rossberg, to approve the tax abatement for parcel 05L11575 Maria de Jesus Infante due to a trailer fire. Motion passed unanimously. A discussion was made with the board to review and approve application of wind tower construction compliance certificate. No action was taken at this time. Discussion was made with the board to allow the burn ban for Crawford County to expire. A motion was made by Rossberg, seconded by Hayden, to approve Cell Site Solutions LLC contract for LMR tower shelters. Motion passed unanimously. During citizen input, there were citizens here to express their concerns about the pipeline and wind tower construction. On motion, duly seconded, the board adjourned at 11:50 a.m. Agendas for the next meeting are posted and available at the courthouse on Friday, 4:30 p.m. preceding the next meeting.
So I remember it.
I already read it. I agree with it.
Pretty close.
Okay, supervisor reports. Jean,
Well, thank you for calling on me first.
you're
As you
welcome.
know, I went to the District 3 meeting. So we have the forum, the legislator recommendations. I thought the meeting was going to be about pipelines, but it actually centered a lot of it on our concerns with mental health. All the counties, yep. We just don't think it's good the way it's going. I'll pass it around. I could sit here and read it to you, but I don't think that's going to be necessarily good. So emergency medical services, you know, we have the problem. The county, it needs to be an essential service. We need to have voter approval for a dedicated property tax. So that's going to be a forum. Eminent domain is a problem, and we really hammered on that to the point where, and I can't think, who was the guy that said he was going to bring legislature forward? and-
Mike Sexton, but he said only up to 90%.
90%.
voluntary.
Yeah, so we were asking 100, but he knows he's got an uphill battle. Everybody has a problem with eminent domain, and everybody has a problem with 3 people making that decision, and everybody has a problem. And, you know,
Unelected
politically,
three.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what I have. a problem with.
unelected 3. Mental health and the disabilities. So one of the problems that we all foresee and have foreseen is that, you know, they were going to reduce it to 5% that they're going to leave for us, but they are so slow paying bills that they're going to request that they give us at least 10% to maintain timely payments to our providers. Because if we start running in the hole while we're waiting for the state to send the money, it's just going to be a circle jerk. And we do have the problem of these performance-based evaluations and how the state is determining who gets the money and how much you get. And I am so glad that I'm not the only county that really feels that while they're working it out, there's going to be somebody fall between the cracks. This 988 number, I'm telling you, nobody knows about it. I'm telling you, what the problem is that if you have somebody in a crisis mode in Crawford County, you're going to call 911. You're going to get the sheriff out there who's going to want to taser them because they just, you know, are acting all crazy, or they're going to send them out to our emergency room, who they're not handled to take care of it, and they have no place really to send them. They don't know where to send them, but yet we're paying places, you know, $300,000 to be ready. or if you got somebody that fits every box that the state said they have, you can't be violent, you can't be on drugs, you can't to fit into this place. So maybe we can take them over to, and they're closing down the old facilities. It was a good conversation, but do we accomplish anything? No.
I don't
it
get
just-
that. You can't, basically anything that describes what mental health is, you can't beat, or mental health issue.
Not at
At that place up
an
there where all
assessment,
the,
a critical assessment, yeah. And you can't have had any run in with any of the staff currently that's up there, and yeah, and then, so they peer evaluate whether their decision was good or bad for letting them in or not. So they look it over and, oh, they might have decided maybe they could have let that one in after they let them go home, it's, I have that meeting tomorrow. It was supposed to be in Holstein, and then we have this big, want to make sure that Jeremy Taylor can attend, even though he's still teaching school. So now we've moved it to Sac City.
he's still supervisor,
Yeah, but he teaches school also, and we're supposed to move our meetings so he
so
can.
he could come.
But anyways, juvenile detention is part of it. The zoning commission board of adjustments membership. So I think they have a good agenda. I didn't scribble too bad on this because I remembered I probably want to pass it around, so I scribbled on other paper. I'll pass it around. That's my cleanest copy I got. Sorry, guys.
Looks like it did get a little.
Just a little. I got, here's this one's even cleaner. Yep, there's one that has no scribbles on it. Did grab an extra one of these because I knew you guys would care. So I thought it was good. Let's see here, countywide housing, that was a problem. The revolving loan programs were talked about. And that's kind of brought an attention to my ear in that, we do have a Denison Housing Commission, but I'm feeling like maybe the county should look, because we talk about Charter Oak and the deterioration of the homes and the Dow cities and the areas. I'm thinking that as time goes on, we should talk to Region 12 and see what we could maybe facilitate to have a program similar to what they're having in the city of Denison to help rehabilitate housing. That's going to have to be facilitated, with some matching money from the county.
Sorry, go ahead.
No,
Full tax for wind towers came up. That's never going to happen.
Eric, didn't our
Tax
Vail
credits.
meeting, sorry if I
That's
interrupted
okay.
for a second.
That's all
Didn't
right.
our Vail cities, League of Cities thing, wasn't that about what Gene just said? I mean, and the cities just don't show up. I mean, you got to get their participation.
You do.
And
You do.
that's where we're lacking. I mean, because we did have a big, I mean, it was a really good class on
Yeah,
the
So-
things they could do for
and Region 12 came.
So
Urban
Chris came
improvement.
over.
Chris came over.
Chris, and what was that lady's name that spoke? Gosh, that's long enough ago.
I
don't
can't
know.
remember last
Was it
name.
Tammy?
No, she
No?
works down there. And her primary one was for this last year's been looking at locations for the prison people,
Oh,
people who buy the prisoner's house.
Yeah.
She's not-
the one like
she's
we have
not
on
by
Avenue
prison.
C.
Mhm.
Right.
That turned out to be, I'm glad to see that got sold for full asking price, and there's a family in there that met all the qualifications.
It's been slow
But
for all this. They're still putting them out, but not as fast as they were. But the other side of it is that lumber prices were so high, it jacked it up over.
yeah, 163,500.
But now lumber's been coming off. It's been slowly and quietly doing it.
Well, I think if the county tapped into that as time goes on, just to have that program out there, because it's a proven fact, if you help
Wendy,
somebody build a house, it's on the tax
We
program.
got 6 counties that are involved with that, but we got a $6 million chunk of change in 10th Street. 10th Street apartments, not apartments, but duplexes. And,
In Denison,
huh,
where at?
yeah,
on 7th Avenue, not set, yeah.
10th Street, Hilldale. Is that
Yeah,
the one,
Hilldale.
Hilldale?
Headed out toward behind Smithfield out that way.
Yeah,
But see, that's income based, and there are people,
No, it's income based for a period of 6 or 7 years, and then it can go to open.
It's been 6 or 7 years.
Well, I'm sure it has.
Yeah, it has.
But it's when they want to open up, it's because they get the tax credits on it. It's a federal program.
Is that the project that they built that they had to put the money aside for the low to moderate income? How we spared this, the city of Denison? Remember, we have $300,000 that one of the projects had to set aside for low to moderate, or that was the one out at the hospital. Never mind, we're talking about things that
Yeah,
we didn't talk about, but anyways,
Gene, did you bring up the property tax? cuts
Not yet.
And the concerns?
talk about that, Dave.
Oh, we had a
I wrote it down here, yeah. Another,
lot of discussion about some of the state legislative priorities, and one of the top priorities is property tax cuts.
I got it written down here,
So mandate it,
However,
something we gotta spend on and then cut us.
unfunded mandate,
they're gonna cut, and that's one of the priorities, and that's coming down the pike,
it is.
and it's up to us to figure out. It will probably won't happen this year, because by the time they get through legislative sessions, but what they propose or could pass this year is gonna affect us going forward. Now, all of a sudden, we're gonna have to scramble and decide, how do we make up the difference, or live with those budget cuts that we're gonna see directly at our table.
Are they telling that to the schools too?
Some of them, we don't know how it's gonna be diced out, but schools are gonna be part of it. Well, you know, it's schools and
50% of the tax
community
dollars are
colleges and,
school.
but we don't know what percent we're gonna see at our board.
But we will
But
see a decrease.
that is such a neat thing, you're talking about that, and then we talk about the towers out here and stuff like they're generating electricity, but you don't realize, I just realized, and one of the gals pointed out to me, is that we don't have a single twirly bird deal in Crawford, in the Denison school system.
No windmills and mills.
No windmills. You can have windmills down in southwest side of the county, you have over by, but we don't have any within the school.
Schleswig, Tyron, no,
Yeah,
windmills in
Mid-American
their
has
school
them.
districts. So you're good now.
They weren't billing it.
Well, they only get 30% of their
Yeah, I know.
actual value, so.
Yeah.
and that was brought up to
Tar
maybe
Road.
offset some of these property
You
tax
does not
cuts
have
at the
it
state level,
in
is
this
if you could tax those wind turbines at a full assessed rate or a higher percentage than 30%.
Can't do that.
Maybe make up the difference.
But they just changed that because we are going into our 19th year, which we could have changed it because we pulled that ordinance up. And if we change it, then we can only get what the output,
What they're generating.
what they're
for revenue.
generating, which will be a lower number than 30% of their valuation. And then they could turn them off if they
Unless they
wanted
write
to.
legislation that. allows
That's,
you-
but they
Well,
passed,
Unless they, you know.
They just wrote that last
they
year.
just
Yeah.
wrote that last year. So it's gonna take a lot of lobbying to have them repeal that and then go back and let us, because I was all ready to ask for a little bit more tax off of them and
Well, what I found
Gene's
interesting
starting.
is they can make an initial assessment on the value, but we couldn't go back and do another one because there's nothing to compare it to. Well, what the hell are they comparing it to initially?
well, and they can do all their improvements, you know, they can put all new blades, but you don't really get to tax them. But if you add a tile to your bathroom, you're gonna get taxed on it. So, yeah, it was a good meeting though. I
It's
thought,
hard to lobby
and
against
Dave
Mid-American Energy when they're
walked
getting
into
funds
it.
from the government to pay lobbyists.
First
Yeah.
day at the meeting, he's already been elected the president,
Same with
just saying.
Summit.
Dave.
Well, Carl
Same
did
as
call me
some
back this morning,
carbon
Oh,
solutions.
okay.
so
Exactly.
Can we lobby to get lobby?
I got elected as District 3 president again.
You did? I didn't, yeah,
But then they called, Rachel Bennett from ISAC called back and said, well, they actually messed up. Carl's seat, he was supposed to transition into secretary treasurer that I served on the executive board,
Okay.
isn't for another year. So then Rachel they nominated me to fill Tim Neal's spot from Bremer County on the executive board. However, Carl called me back this morning and said, well, I really don't want to go back through a vote.
yeah, because I was
Process.
thinking we can't
So he
just change
said,
it.
I will step down from president of District 3 unless you have it. But we'll see how the December 15th meeting goes. So there's either a chance that I'll be District 3 president or on the executive board.
Just a little FYI, first day at the, but I thought after you hung up, I was like, well, how can they just change a vote? You know, because.
So they got, the executive board has to figure that out.
Well, welcome back, Dave.
Yeah, dude. So I just wanted to mention that.
Hit the ground running.
Here's the full packet. If anybody wants it, I picked up an extra one. I didn't write on it at all. So there. Also had a lot of phone calls about the wind turbines and this certificate we're getting ready to pass. That, you know, really people, no matter what we do, I just don't know how we can protect everybody. The non-landowners are the ones that really struggle with not, you know, they get nothing for it, but yet they're the ones that could be the highly influenced by it. And the size of these towers that they're gonna be
I made an
now.
adjustment, you'll see today.
Okay, well, we might not be able to vote on it today. I saw the adjustment. I did see the boundary lines. I saw that. But yeah, that, a lot of calls about that. Just different things. This week was a little busy, a lot of talking on the phone. Like
I had pros and, I didn't have any cons this week. I actually had some pros.
Yeah.
The one turbine. So that was kind of a nice switch. I asked him, why aren't you showing up at the meetings and defending your position?
Right, if you want to
Yeah.
say that.
But anyway, I passed that around for you guys to see, and
I'd like to hear both.
I think they're spot on though with the things that are concerns of this county that they're taking forward. You know, we don't have enough water to worry about the water problems and drainage and all that, but emergency medical services.
We have no water.
I was gonna say, we might want to wish we had a little bit.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, but it was a good meeting. Glad I went. Got a wellness center meeting, and I plan on going to the Denison City Council meeting today because they're going to talk about water. It would fit into what we're doing down at the Nelson's Park.
Oh, I was just reading that email and it looks to me like it's a way of treating wastewater. So I mean, really, that really wouldn't help. I was thinking the same thing
Oh.
at first, but it's a way to
Oh,
reduce nitrogen and potassium in wastewater. So
I
I
haven't
mean,
looked at it
we really
since
don't
my original phone
have
I
a
know
call.
lot
I
of
shared it
wastewater.
with Mary, who was the president of conservation, and
Yeah.
she shared it with
Chris.
Chris, and I think he made a couple phone calls and.
Yeah, I thought if it was a way to treat
Oh, see, that's what,
Right.
So maybe
drinking water,
maybe I don't
potable
have to-
water,
Right.
I thought that'd be great, but I don't think that's. the
would there
case.
be a reason for me to go then? Because I had gotten a phone call that somebody was hoping. that-
Just me reading through it, I couldn't see as a supervisor, the need for us to be there, because we don't deal with wastewater as far as the sewage and
Well,
stuff.
if I'm not doing anything at 5 o'clock, I just buzz in. How's that?
It's an open meeting. You can
I
do
know.
that. You can do that.
I sit in the back row. It makes me feel better.
Gene, you didn't bring anything up about this
Oh, I'm
juvenile
sorry.
detention part,
I'm
but
sorry.
I would like to make
I
sure that
moved
the whole
on.
board is aware of it.
Yes.
That this is gonna affect our budgets if we don't get the state to kick up their 50%.
That
Because
was,
our
juvenile
juvenile
detention.
detention numbers are going through the roof.
Yep.
Actually, we don't have enough space for all of them. And the state's spending, they're kicking up less and less because it was out of the DUI fund and whatever the heck else was where the juvenile detention money was coming from. And
Well, when we didn't have a lot of naughty kids, it didn't cost them much money, so they didn't.
Exactly.
well, and that all kind of rolls along with the mental health part of
Yeah, I
it.
was gonna say, I mean,
it's-
the naughty kids ain't maybe the right word, it's the mental health crisis that's
Um,
throwing a lot of them kids into detention.
And you do, well, and that kind of rolls into the schools and there was what was that gal's name? She, feels like the teachers are underpaid for what they all have to go through with, so that I lost. Yeah.
Some
So,
teachers are underpaid, some
yeah,
are overpaid.
the transporting
I
of
would
the,
guess.
yeah, is a situation.
No,
And how they fund it, it was brought up with Polk County, gets per capita plus an extra 2 million.
just for fun,
Jeez.
just for fun money
just
here.
for fun. Yeah, so I did think we picked up a lot from it. There was a lot of discussion. It was,
Thanks for-
and pipelines did come up, don't get me
Oh.
wrong.
Well, I'm glad to hear it wasn't the only topic brought up.
Well, I was prepared to be involved in that one too, but,
Yeah.
Gene, I think a big thing I took away from the eminent domain pipeline talk is if eminent domain takes precedence, that it can be used for the pipeline. The fear isn't that we're against the pipeline. The fear is that what's gonna stop a wind turbine company to come and say, I don't agree with how your ordinance that you have at the county level. We're gonna do what we want and we'll take it back public utility board.
Ding, ding,
Well,
ding, ding.
it's-
That was the initial,
and-
one of the initial
and
discussions.
so even when he brought it up and he says 90% participation, my question is 90% of the landowners or 90% of the miles? Because it could be one big landowner,
Mhm.
and it kind of puts, so he had thought about that, so we kind of, eminent domain, it needs to be adjusted the way that they do it. I just really, and they realize it, it's on there to talk about, but it's not a politically popular thing to
I
bring
don't
up,
think
I
the
guess.
state legislators have the political will to do it.
Well, I got that impression for sure. They didn't want to talk about it, quite frankly. Yeah. Yeah. Yipper dipper. So I passed it around so everybody can just kind of visit, read, because I could sit here and read it to you, but we'd never get home then. So my turn's up. Thank you for letting me talk.
You're welcome.
Good job, Gene.
Yes. Jerry,
Ladies first.
yes,
Ooh,
Well,
I'm always gonna
I'm
be
assuming you
first.
all got the email from Ray Freeman about the Tower Foundation work that's done at Charter Oak and Vale.
Yep.
Okay. Well, what
being you
else?
brought that tower project up, Greg Miller contacted Whipco and they can get the 35 kW generators
Oh,
installed with the switch price of 27,000 versus 41,000.
Ooh,
So basically with the money that's left over, we could buy her for public health.
We could buy generators and
oh,
for the public health building for the same money. We could buy 5 for the cost of 4.
cool.
And they're only 34-week lead time instead of 67 weeks. So half the lead time.
Wow.
Get that order going.
I think we just will get them ordered in my.
Do you remember,
So
were
is
they
he-
own-ins or
I think they're Onans, I think, which,
it's Cummins?
you know.
Same thing.
I mean, Mike said that they're not industrial grade or whatever. I'm like, they sit at hog barns all throughout our county
Yeah.
and they work fine. Dave's got one,
Had one for 30 years, still there.
so I think we just chisel that out of that. We'll just get them. We better make sure that,
We make sure we can get them.
well, can we chisel them out of that contract?
Right.
Well, we gotta make sure
Good
that,
question.
Because
I can't imagine why they wouldn't, that wouldn't matter to them, but it's hard selling.
do you wanna
Yeah.
tell Mike that, you know, we can get them locally here for, and I know they're not the ones that he recommends, but they service them, they install them,
They're right here.
they're right here. And they're 13,000 or less a piece,
I really don't mind being a pain in their backside.
so,
do everything well.
Thank you.
sorry, I just beat
No,
the
that's
top up, I thought. Hell, we just will talk about it, and I think they, even though that
I'm
Dow
good at
City
that.
one's Harrison County, I think they'll install it out there too. Or
I
I
would hope
imagine
so.
Harrison County probably has the same
Correct.
offers or stuff that Whipco has, so. I don't think that'd be a problem.
Then, everybody got the email about, we're cutting over to Office 365 tomorrow.
The final,
And what else did I have going here?
Does anybody anticipate that being any big deal?
I don't think so.
I hope not.
I don't think it should.
Christmas crusade, you got the email about that. I'm sure everybody else did.
I'm actually getting my emails now, Jerry, but thanks.
And if anybody else wants to show up and help pop popcorn, they're more than welcome to. On Thursday,
This Thursday?
yeah. 9 to noon or 9 to 1 or
I
something.
get a Thursday full all of a sudden.
That's fine.
I think I could probably come over them.
Also, I got a thing from Wendy Mueller about the, there are some grants out there. Dan, I might forward that to you there. I'm trying to think what they're actually called. The Des Moines Register had a story about it.
And then
It's.
1 o'clock I'll be here.
Embrace Iowa.
Meeting.
People apparently donate money to Embrace Iowa. There was a gentleman who had who is on disability due to cancer, and he ended up being able to get a refrigerator from them. So you might, I'll forward that to you. I thought that was kind of cool. And it was kind of throw what I think West Central led him in that direction. Other than that, I guess we all went to, Eric wasn't there, but the rest of us were at Dwayne's conference board meeting the other night.
Yeah,
Talked about that. He talked about the,
residential evaluation, or not,
exactly,
it's not an evaluation, it's a reassessment.
right. It was like it could,
He said if you guys want to stop in, Craig, and he could bring you up to speed on that.
I'll bring it to speed on
It's,
it.
yeah, go ahead, Gene.
Could be a dragon shoot on that one.
well, it hasn't been done since 1976.
And there'd be my question, why would we wait 45 years? Now when it's $800,000.
Well, I don't,
And it wouldn't, they couldn't complete it until 2029. It's a
Well, I
long
think-
way off.
I
And it's
think
not
what's
about-
driving it, Gene, is the way I understood it was the fact that he's starting to see the larger discrepancies in what the equation the state sets out and what we're selling stuff to Crawford County for. So because we're basing off 200 houses sold, what the other 6,000 houses are valued at.
But I think when the question is, well, how do we get our 800,000 paid back? How much do you anticipate it's gonna raise our tax base by doing it? Not really, just want to make sure everybody's paying their fair share. That was kind of not really the right answer. We should have a number for how this is gonna improve our taxes. We're paying
We have no idea
$800,000.
until you do it. I mean,
The only thing I didn't like about it is if you were knocking on the door, if they come out here for $800,000 and they were knocking on these doors and you don't let them in, they can give you a letter. And I'll tell you what, I was at my daughter's and they were doing around Bramer County and I saw the letter laying on her counter. So, okay, so she's remodeled her kitchen and she's working on her basement. So right now, she signs, nope, we haven't changed anything. We send it in. They're not gonna bother to come out and look. So for 800,000, I think
Well,
I have a problem
and the
with it.
other part of that then.
Can
that
we
the
hire
state-
somebody local to help Dwayne and them?
See, that's what.
I would think that'd be
You and I
money
talked about that.
better spent hiring somebody beside, I mean.
Give that a
Vanguard-
try, pay somebody $25 an hour to go around and have the form to fill out and see how we do.
I would think in the next 7 years, if you divided the county into sections
Mhm.
and got a little bit of extra help, I would think you could do it for less than
Part-time.
$800,000.
Part-time help.
Part-time,
Part-time.
yes.
part of that 800,000, right? They enter all that into our system too. Was that right? If I remember
That,
correctly.
and the Vanguard, yeah, they have
Vanguard.
a- yeah.
Yeah, that was part of it.
Yeah,
Yep,
but,
you're right.
that's
All I
a
can
lot
say
of
is-
money.
Unfortunately, I don't disagree with you guys, but remember when we bought that CAD system for $60-some thousand and we had to hire somebody to input all the information into it? You know how far that got? Got about 4 towns done, and then they kind of just
But
went through dumped everything in there quick, and that was it. So
Well,
it's
still
really not
done.
working the way it was supposed to. So to me, it was almost a waste of money for what we did with that. I mean,
That's
so-
still not done, is it?
no,
Right.
One of our problems.
so. So that's the only concern I have if we try to attempt it on a local level would be we'd get right about to the goal line and we fumble the ball and.
But
I guess we can't, in the bottom line, the only thing we've got to say over is, are we gonna let him budget $140,000 for the next X number of years? Other than that, he may choose not even to do it at all.
Right.
So, I mean, and like we can tell him what to do, all we can tell him is, yes, we'll let you put that money aside, or no, we're not going to.
And the only caveat to that is our vote can say we don't want it. to
Oh,
spend that,
right.
or-
That's right.
The other 2
Yeah,
votes might
that's
say,
right.
you know what? But it's not hurt to voice them opinions at the next meeting we have with them concerns.
Can I ask Jerry, that's what that's gonna be spread out over.
He's,
how many-
he is
7 years.
Seven
proposing,
years.
right, to budget for $140,000.
They couldn't even start on it till
Yeah.
2029.
Have Vanguard come in and reassess all the residential properties. in
Which if you
Crawford
don't do it
County,
now,
which
it could
hasn't been
cost
done
$1.2 million
since
in
1970.
2029 to be
Right,
2037.
yeah,
So-
and that they won't start till 2029.
So
And
that's one.
So
aspect.
here's my question.
Vanguard
Are we
got
leaving $1.2 million
completed by
on the
2029.
table by not doing it? Are we leaving $1.2 million in taxes that we are missing in order to do
it'd be
this?
hard to say.
Well, I know it's hard to say. So in
We're
every other
We're gonna
aspect,
find, probably
of
Our
find
local people can't get the information. How are these outsiders
That's
gonna
ex-
get the same information?
read
They're
my
not.
mind.
That's
They're
a
not.
good point. And I do
I mean,
believe
I'm-
we'd find some residential properties that are way undervalued and some that are probably way overvalued.
And the problem with that too is
So you
if
equal
you,
out.
so let's say that you just know that house is nicer
lot.
inside than you
Oh,
just know it, and they won't let you in. Okay, we're just gonna say you have 5 bathrooms, you have this and that, and you raise it up, and then they have to come in and say, well, that's way too high. Well, then let us in, you know?
What's the truth?
Yeah, and we had them pay $1.2 million to do them that way. And the other part of it, and we've always said that assessed values are lower than market value. It's the way we lived our lives in banking. We look up the assessed value and we say, yeah, if it's assessed for that, should sell, you know, if it's assessed for 80, they want 100, it doesn't seem out of the ballpark. So now we're gonna want our assessed values to be 100 because your neighbor sold theirs for 100. And I have somebody in mind right now that their neighborhood got reassessed and everybody's went up and theirs went up. They said, well, why did mine go up so much? Well, everybody else is just, you know, selling higher,
for
so we
that.
just
Mhm.
assumed yours was nicer too. This is a little old lady living on a fixed income. They thought she had a bathroom in the basement, so she let them come in and there's no bathroom down there. You got us wrong, you know? So that kind of happened naturally then by just going around and reassessing neighborhoods that have had a little bit higher, and you just raise them, and then you come in and say, no, these guys over here, they got a handyman, I live all by myself, I haven't done anything.
Mhm.
And you were gonna raise my, so there's a pro and a con to it, but I always, everything else we do, it's, you know, your cost for your investment, what, you know, you're investing this money.
Well, that's a
you
good
should be
question
getting
to
something
have.
back.
I think that we'll have that opportunity to ask them again, so,
Kyle, we talked a lot about this study focusing on residential areas.
yeah.
Does it say anything, or they talked about some of our biggest tax base comes from Smithfield or?
Well, that,
They find it every
we
year.
we funded
find
that
every
one
year.
5 years ago. That
But
one's just finishing
Does
up.
this Vanguard study go in and say your company is assessed at a bigger, a larger value than what it is?
Just
Or
residential at
it's
this
only
time.
residential?
This one,
That's-
we're just finishing up the commercial one.
Right.
It's just finishing up now.
Right,
So,
completed in calendar year
was that
2024.
2017 or
It
18?
says, it says, on the, it says review commercial industrial reevaluation
Bring that
that's
with you.
scheduled to be completed in calendar year 2024 and implemented for assessment values for January 1st, 2025.
Okay, that's, I didn't know. if
Yeah,
the
I can't remember if that was
company involved
2016 or 17 when we voted to go down that road. That was 300 and some thousand
Yep,
dollars. at that
300,000
time
was
to
set aside for
do
that.
our commercial one, so.
But then we still have to
Still
have
in
our money
trouble.
set aside to fight it every year, even though they came in and said that it's worth this much.
Right.
They have their professionals set aside to come in every year and argue and.
That's what they
Yeah,
have.
Usually
Dwayne has,
Smithfield and Anderson, you can expect you're gonna get letters from them. They're gonna protest those.
last year
valuations.
Bedrock came in, because I
Oh,
sat
yeah,
through
that
it,
was
kind of
another one.
wondered how that process goes, and Bedrock had a representative. Anderson, Smithfield,
Peterson, was Peterson
was
there?
that, I didn't remember Peterson,
Smithfield, Anderson's, Bedrock.
there's one more.
Was there one more?
He was
I know
called.
2 years ago, Broadway Dental also had protested theirs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have a
Rock collector.
protest no matter what.
Rock
You have to
collector.
And then
like
the
that.
ass-
Since you weren't home, you mind? if we
And then the
clean your
assessor's
driveway?
office is looking to purchase a new vehicle and they've got some money in reserve to do that.
Yep.
And then we celebrated Cindy Gosler's 40 years employment in Crawford County.
We did.
So that was kind of what was going on there. And then Ty and I.
Yep.
We went to the summit, we went to the ethanol plant in Galva and we toured that. Thank God I had an extra coat. I don't know. I didn't realize we were gonna be
She
outside.
looks
twice,
good
but-
in the car, Art.
It's kind of a bad deal because then they only had so many headsets in their hard hats, and so it was kind of hard to hear some of it, but we did get the tour and
Yeah.
it's almost like a hog. They use it down to the squeal, let me tell you. They had all these little different places they were
You got that new department that breaks down even after the initial alcohol is squeezed out. They got something that breaks out pure ethanol. Is that how, probably the best way to describe it? But it explodes the fibers. And that's their high value ethanol that they can use like in aircraft and all that stuff. And there's some of that that goes up. I was actually, they have no railhead there. So all their gluten is all dry and it's just little granulars. And all of that goes out to a dairy in Washington.
I think that sounds right. I think it was Washington. I was
Yeah, in
surprised.
Washington
I think it's
State.
Washington.
And on train, they haul it over to a railhead somewhere there close by. But then all their ethanol gets hauled to the railhead over in Cherokee. So there was some pretty interesting stuff as far as the plant went.
Yeah.
You know, and the one part that I actually asked questions at our meeting later about, because they have a dry ice facility right there, but that will not get any carbon from them once the pipeline goes in, because the value that they get over the carbon exchange credit, whatever the heck, the value they get is more than what the people at the dry ice can afford to pay them. So I said, so basically you're losing jobs. Well, no, because they think they can get
Carbon yeah, they think they can get it somewhere else.
They think they can
That
get
was
it
their
somewhere else.
explanation, but if you
No,
can't get it right there cheaper.
Yeah.
that dry ice really puts
really
value
should
to
have
it,
thought
but
of
does
that.
it really solve the carbon
No,
problem?
it doesn't, because the dry ice.
Not
You just
totally
move
by
that,
any
you
means.
move that from point A and off gases
Mhm.
at point B.
Mhm.
So that's probably where they're,
I know, all I just thought is, I'll bet there's not a lot of dry ice, there's probably not enough dry ice to make a significant contribution to the atmosphere. However, you're losing some community jobs there. And you also lose a product that, you know, like it or not, that dry ice ships a lot of product across the country.
Yep.
So now you're also losing a source of shipping. I mean, there's a lot of meat and stuff. I mean, I don't know where Omaha Steaks gets all theirs, but I guarantee you there's dry ice in every package going out of there.
Dry ice and
we
every
get
airplane
some-
going out of Omaha.
We get some,
Keeping the
Yeah.
top cold.
Yep,
there you go.
airlines are the biggest customer for that.
That's right.
dry ice.
I just,
That makes sense.
got a meat package in the mail and it was synthetic, like gooey stuff. I wonder, so what's that in replacing dry ice?
It could be.
You
I
know,
don't
I'm out of
know.
Virginia, so it was a couple days in the mail and it was still frozen when I got it, so
Wow.
I thought it was gonna be dry ice, so I cut that package open, it was just a slime and I'm like,
Yeah,
oh.
Oh,
So what's it take to make that? And replace to something that's already a byproduct of something else that we're trying to basically outlaw, but we're
Probably poison when it gets into our water supply.
and we're trying to create more.
They found another, they were talking about this on TV this morning. They're interviewing, you know, the oceans are the worst part right now, and it's killing the coral sea basins.
That's the temperature.
And now they're trying to get that back in there with what they're doing. And they found it's like a Tums, the chemical base, make a Tums anti,
Calcium,
you
yeah.
throw those out there and they work. Calcium
Ah.
chloride.
I'll be darned.
yeah.
Cool.
What else, Jerry?
What I found more interesting is the little conversation Ty and I had with them after the meeting.
Which one?
Please share.
With the fella, he said that they had 80% of the counties, the
Yep.
property in
Yep.
Crawford County, if the leases are in place.
Yep.
So they think they're going to the IUB, that's gonna be a go. And when we said we had some, we've had people in here with concerns. Well, I felt like they told us if we're not trying to get leases with them, we're not, we're not dealing with those people. We're dealing with the people we're trying to lease from. So Gene, if you live next door to me and it's not going, this is how I understood it. If you're living next door to me and it's not going on your property, they got earmuffs on. They're not listening to those people. The people they're talking to are the people that
Makes
they're.
sense.
And then
That's
they
the
said that
Hold on.
they'll, once they get, let's see. Once they get, I mean, they've got 80, if they get up to 90, and they're gonna pick away at these last few people, and the last, like, up to, the last 5%, you can depend, they are gonna exercise eminent domain, and they feel like the IUB, if they get that close, for, if they got 95% of the project signed up, eminent domain will come in place for the last 5. That's what I thought they told us. Did I understand
I felt that
correctly?
was the implication.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I think actually 90 was probably where they were looking at, but I
So
think
that's what I
I think they
found
set
out.
their goals high, but I think they can get it at 90.
Hmm.
And they're at 80, they're
No.
81 was what the number that he said
Hadn't
about
all worked
Crawford
up over
County
that, so
already. Now there were some counties that are not that high.
Sure.
have that much, they,
Yeah, there were some counties that weren't as high as we are.
right,
You know where
oh,
Shelby's
yeah,
at work
no.
right now?
Yeah, they aren't, I don't think, I know they didn't, he didn't give us any specific numbers on anybody else.
So- The other part of that, may I interject just for 1 second? A question?
Have at it.
So, we don't have our ordinance in place, and if 80%, the ordinance is only going to protect the people that haven't signed, because unless you refer to our ordinance in your easement, they could build right next to a schoolhouse if there was somebody that was close to, we don't, am I right on that?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so,
I was looking at these
Yeah,
maps of
Ty.
other counties, but.
You think Paul gets in here?
Well,
The
not now.
Not now.
Sure he isn't done though.
the other thing they did say is their investment in Crawford County would be $22,237,000. The total labor income would be $9,368,000. And the new property taxes would bring in $856,000.
Oh, yeah.
And we
Got our
asked why,
Evaluation.
actually, like,
We asked why we were lower on property tax.
right, then like Ida had more than us, but he said because they're getting the pumping.
They're getting the
station, we're
pump
not.
station now. They were
Takes
over
that
$1 million.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
but if anybody wants to see all this good
how-
stuff.
I do, because I really was torn on which one of those meetings I was gonna go to.
I
but,
left mine at home on the desk.
So how are they getting evaluation of that already? Is there a equation that they're using, or how do they know?
Probably.
They had a third party that did it. Don't you remember him talking about
I don't
that?
even
Because I
remember.
asked that question.
Was Dwayne included in that?
No. No, there was a
Asking
third party.
utilities.
That's
That's
by the
based on
Department of
either-
Revenue.
Yeah.
That's
We
nothing.
won't value
Right.
that. You won't assess that.
Yeah,
We did talk
pipelines.
about that about it.
There was a third
Pipelines,
party.
railroads.
Miles of pipeline,
Right.
and they have a value that they determine through, yeah.
Some third party company you talked about did the valuation.
Transmission lines, it's all valued.
Probably Vanguard.
Other than
Electricity is
that-
that way, natural gas is that
I
way.
have one more
Yeah.
little question.
Yeah.
So they took you through the plant,
Ethanol plant.
the ethanol plant showed you, and so leading the tour was the president of the ethanol plant or the summit?
It was I thought it was like the plant superintendent is what I
Well, the
would
guy
call
that,
it.
yeah, he was actually, I don't know, he's pretty smart. I think he might even been the developer there or something. I mean, as far as product development, he was pretty smart. He was an Indian fellow, but he was.
He
He was-
doesn't work day to day at the Galva plant, correct?
Oh, yeah, I think he
Yeah,
does.
You
that
think he
guy
does?
did-
Yeah, I
that
think he
guy
does
was
too.
forwarded.
I think he actually, is that plant owned by the the Quad County, something they call themselves? And I think that's what they were all wearing. And then a lot of their people that were on their board were there. So they spoke. He did the tour.
Then the guy that was the
So-
ethanol lobbyist, he was there and spoke too. Or, he answered questions
and
from
we
the
had-
crowd.
There were four people that were gonna go into the legislature come January. But
They actually asked some pretty
were
critical
three of the
questions.
four, were they all new or just three of the four were new?
I think 3 of the 4. were.
I think so too. Anyway, Gene, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
That's okay. So then after the meeting, then the Summit Carbon people called the counties that have, so nobody would have been invited unless you were a county that had a pipeline going through,
Yeah.
correct?
That would be my guess.
So then Summit brought you in to
I
kind
don't
of
think
reel
Shelby
in.
County
That's,
was
that's,
invited.
well,
Shelby wasn't invited?
I don't know why.
I
I'm
think it
just
was,
guessing.
I think it was by district, I think is what. I don't know
So
if they're
Ida
in
was
that district.
there, Ida County, Crawford County.
They might be hosting
I
this
can-
one at the
I can
Atlantic.
tell you-
Ethanol
oh, it's in the
plant.
packet because they're in the back.
Oh,
There was Cherokee.
Yeah.
And there were also, it wasn't just county supervisors, there were economic development people
Oh,
there,
oh.
city people
Some
there.
guy just got
It-
elected. to the
yeah.
team.
Can they do a
And
region?
legislature.
What they did is they took us through the plant. After we'd done going through the plant, we drove into Galva to like a community type room setting. And then we had lunch and the summit people spoke at that time.
So all these counties were represented?
They might not have all been there, but they
Okay,
were
they
probably
were
all
invited.
invited.
Okay, okay,
Correct. That,
all
to the best of my knowledge.
All of them to Little Galva, Iowa, huh?
It was an interesting plan. I think it was because, I think they probably chose them because they're gonna be a member partner.
Exactly.
And because of their, I don't remember what they called that process, but where they do that one extra step to get the pure ethanol. And it was like a 200 proof. So basically they're making everywhere, you know.
Exactly.
So they base your new tax property valuations on how many miles of
Transmission
pipeline is
lines.
going through, and then you get a little extra boost for a pumping station, and what do we get for valves? A little something?
We got 2 valves, one on each side of Denison,
I would
and they
guess
had a
they
piece of the
probably
pipe
I
there.
don't know
And
that.
I'm gonna tell you, that's some heavy duty stuff.
Oh, yeah, they did have that.
They just
piece
had
of
that
pipe.
chunk that was probably about that
Yep,
tall.
Yep.
And it was an 8-incher, which
Yep,
is what
yep.
we're getting in Crawford at this point. And that was a heavy piece of steel.
It was. Oh,
So,
the
and then
little-
and then I asked that way, we were standing out there looking at all that stuff. I wanted to know about their inspection process of the welds. I'm more worried about the welds than I am. And every weld will be x-rayed, and if there's any imperfections in that weld, it'll be cut out and redone. And they only got to do like 10% of the inspections by standard,
Describe the one.
but they're doing 100. I mean, that was a low number.
Absolutely.
I can't
Alright.
debrief fast
No,
enough
that's
to
okay.
dissect the
No,
information that.
absolutely.
Busy week, they're doing
Need my
nothing.
pencil eraser. I'll bring it back.
That's interesting.
No
Hey,
worries.
Paul.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Lost my agenda, so I'm not that good.
Here. Borrow mine.
You got the
Oh.
amended one, okay.
I do. There you go. There's some there. One for you.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
There should be 2 there.
So they sit next to me, so I grabbed that one that was sitting there. So I have.
The courthouse is festive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a tree in the middle of our.
Hey, a friend of mine sent me this, but at the bottom, I think it has something with Caterpillar. It's from a Reader's Digest for 1961. If you just like to look at that and kind of give it, just take it with you, please.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get it out of my house.
1961.
Yeah.
Still
Built
your
for
Reader's
a growing
Digest.
America. Yeah.
She went to her mother's house, found this stuff, it's talk about the roads and different
I
things.
will keep that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's a neat little picture there too. So the bridge project's done. So,
Outstanding.
yeah, they, they were out there working every day. There's been a lot of discussion statewide about whether they should allow more working days. I think I maybe, I visit with you a little bit about that, maybe not, but. So we have the bridge that we're letting on L51, there was some discussion about, should we open that up? What we have right now is a late start date of the first week of June, okay? And 100 working days. So that takes you to about, 5 months down the road, which is the end of October right now. So I really wasn't all that excited about opening that up and giving them a whole lot more working days.
They'll use them.
Well, what'll happen, Ty, and I think what we've seen in the past is that, let's say you're a contractor and you start on a project and you've got 6 months to build it, or you've got a year to build it. And then all of a sudden some better deal comes up. Well, you've started that project, but yet you can go over here and make a lot more money. So you're gonna pull off. And nobody disputes that point. They're just saying that, there's a lot of projects out there and it could cause the projects to bid higher, but I've always been of the theory that, and this is a case in point, this contractor was there working every day. Okay, they were there every day. They just didn't have the staff, got cold, guys quit, and they just, and so if a contractor bids our project and he's there working every day, I'm a lot more lenient in terms of liquidated damages and that sort of thing, as opposed to if somebody just hauls off and is gone for 3 months and your project's sitting there and nothing's happening. And you got some upset people. There weren't really anybody upset because they saw them working. They're there. And so same thing with our asphalt project. So that's kind of my theory. I just want to share that with you.
I echo them sentiments.
And,
You
you know,
start opening that up, it's gonna just be.
They'll use it. The more you give, the more they'll use. I mean, they're
yeah,
Still gonna run
yeah,
over.
yeah. It's like
like you
widening
brought
a
up
radius on a
before.
curve, you know,
They set that into their bid. They gotta go over, so they set that in their bid.
Yeah, so that's where we left it. That's where we left it. But just to give you, you know, kind of a little indication of, you know, what's going on in the industry, the discussion that's taking place. And so
Who's driving that? Contractors driving that discussion?
I'm sure they are. Yeah,
Imagine that, huh?
Well,
yeah,
you know, I could maybe see maybe redoing some of the liquidated damages thoughts, but that
Yeah.
comes down to
Effort.
the government entity building it and like you said, if you're there working every day, you're like, well, yeah, we can maybe waive some of them.
yeah. We have that discretion.
Pay for effort.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So high prices are the cure for high prices. So
I'd agree. if
there's
they
money to
stayed
be
with
made.
it.
People are gonna come in, you know, they'll come to where there's money to be made. So, which then should help control that. So. But that's where we're at with our contract projects, the asphalt projects in the February letting, January lettings, the bridge project, and we'll see what happens.
18th.
Mhm. Yep. Most of the crews, I mean, we're cutting brush, doing some blading. You know, I told the guys yesterday, you know, our number one diesel prices have just gone through the roof.
Terrible.
Yeah. You know, I was down at Aces on Saturday and the off-road diesel's 510, the on-road diesel's 418. Not sure what's going on, you know, whether it's all number one or, you know, but there's gotta be some number one in that on-road diesel.
Does he
So,
blend? I thought his off-road were two separate barrels down
yeah, well, I think they are. There's a separate pump in the back and then the
there. Yeah,
one
but I
in the
mean, I
front.
thought there was a number one and a number two. I think he's got that up front.
Yeah, I don't know. But it was just interesting, you know, I mean, there's just wide variability in prices. I paid $271 for gas and energy on Sunday, you know.
I'm using mud flap
I
on my
thought I got
pickup now too.
I got
Yeah, so-
292.
But the number one diesel, so my point is that, and I've told the guys, I said, you know, well, let's kind of, you know, pull things in a little bit and cut brush, you know, blades we have to, you know, I'm not saying don't blade, but don't go out unless it really needs it. And there's no sense burning number one diesel.
I agree.
And so that's kind of the direction they've been given. If you have any calls.
What are you
or anything, let me
blending?
know.
50-50?
Right now, we're putting in straight number one. We start 50-50 in the middle of November in this time of the year. So if we get a tanker now, it's gonna be number one. And the reason is, Ty, is it could drop. I mean, next week, the temperatures could drop to below zero. And then, you know, we don't have the ability to instantly change. It has to either be there or it's not. And we don't have the luxury of not having to go out when it's cold. When it's cold, it's 20 below zero and the snow's blowing next week. We're gonna be out. Yeah, so we start putting number one, and of course, you know, down there we buy from Mace, whatever he's got, you know, is what goes into our machines. But generally speaking, the direction to our suppliers is by this time of the year, we want, when you make a new delivery after like the middle of November, we want number one diesel, because it'll blend with the number two that we already got in the tanks. And then eventually you get into the dead of the winter, January, February, you got all number one, and then we start that transition back to number two in February. It's kind of the way we do it.
Makes sense.
So anyhow, we don't want to be burning any more number one than we have to, because it's expensive. Yeah, and so driving to Ankeny on Sunday, and I drive through West Side, it's $5.71 a gallon for number one diesel.
West Side?
Yeah, and so it varied all the way from
Oh,
$4.19
yeah.
for out of your on-road diesel down there to $5.71 in the same county.
Wow, crazy.
You know, and I don't know what he's got, if that's number two or number one. I don't know what kind of a blend. I'm assuming he's probably got some sort of a blend there at this point.
Oh, boy.
But number one is very expensive. So, you know, some brush cutting, equipment service, you know, there's a lot of things we can still do and not have to be out there burning a whole lot of diesel fuel this time of the year, I guess is the point. Item 4 there is the resolution. This would be taking 50% of the anticipated rural basic fund transfer. We usually do that at this time of the year. So
Entertain a motion to approve the resolution transferring the $1,345,000.
I would so move.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Approve that resolution. Is there any further discussion? Here none, will proceed to vote. All in favor, this will be a roll call on the resolution to approve. Jerry,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Ty,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
chair votes aye.
okay. I think we might go down to item B next. Because it might take a little discussion
All right,
time, and I don't know how much time we have here this morning. We can get to some of the other ones.
we got a little extra time.
Okay, well, anyhow. Good news.
You have two?
Did you need one here?
I don't have one.
Okay.
You go around the table, it's for signature.
Did you get one of these, Eric? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
you're
I
the
did,
one that
yeah,
needs one.
thank you.
Okay.
Sign-
Sorry,
you need to
Dina.
sign this?
You need to sign that.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, anyhow,
Back.
okay. If you remember, Kyle and Jean, I mentioned last week that I had put in the bridge over the Union Pacific Railroad through the county as a potential candidate for what's called a RAISE grant. Okay. So I don't know exactly what RAISE stands for. Infrastructure system, something, I don't know, but anyhow, it's a grant that's a discretionary grant for bridge projects. And good applications, and the state's gotten one of these. Last year, they weren't successful. So when I say the state, that means collectively the counties in the state. So there's a group of county engineers that get together, and they're the ones that are kind of advancing the grant on a statewide basis and representing all of the counties. That makes sense to you? Okay.
Mhm.
So it's our association that's kind of moving this forward, and we've been successful. I know Monona County had gotten some money, and I think some of the other counties in the area had gotten some money a few years ago. So I put in the bridge over the Union Pacific Railroad because it checked a lot of the boxes that they were looking for. And it's multi-jurisdictional, which would be city, county. We're in a historically disadvantaged area in the nation. And so we made the first cut. Well, we made the cut, so they evaluated all the county bridges, and they said, okay, these are the ones that are on the back of that sheet that are going to go. And our map had the wrong bridge number on it.
But
So
it was.
It's the correct bridge. Yeah, it's the correct bridge. I just got this morning. Okay.
The map that we sent them had the wrong number on
No, the map that we have has the wrong number. It's a city bridge, but it's got the wrong number. I don't know why. So it's our internal map. I gotta
So we're still on the right-
follow up on
on the
that. So
right-
yeah,
on the
we're on the
correct
right
map.
bridge.
Friday,
Correct.
December 9th.
Yeah, we're on the right bridge.
it.
So anyhow, so let's just use $3 million. Okay, let's just use that as the number. Now, because I don't know what it's gonna cost. We had a gunshot, kind of a, $2.5 million. And keep in mind, this is the city's bridge. Okay, but we can advance this through this grant process because it's on farm market extension. Okay, which is a good thing. So some things that we know, it's a city's bridge. We know that the city's gotten $1.5 million in grant in city federal bridge. Okay. We met last week to discuss kind of what type of arrangement, and basically that was kind of a meeting to get city, county people together. And it's important to the county, I think, in terms of the fact that It's on a route that brings people to Highway 30 and into the community. It's important to the city of Denison, obviously. It's under their jurisdiction. So I have to be a little careful here. Okay, that I don't step on any toes, but you have to understand my motivation here is to try to get as much resources through whatever available programs there are. And I probably not pat myself on the back, but I probably have more experience than anybody else that's involved in this,
I can guarantee that.
in doing this. So my goal here is to try to, for the area, whether it's city or county, and I know, and you tell me, if you tell me to stand down, you tell me to stand down. But it's to try to get as much resources as possible. So
That's something that we've offered up to other communities, is like, no matter what the amount is, you've always taken the approach to be able to find as many funds that are available that will fit that in that box.
for anybody,
Right.
for anybody, you know, and so here's where we're at. And I use the 3 million, I'm just using that for discussion here,
Right.
because we won't know what this bridge is gonna cost until the day that we open the bids.
Right.
And all I'm talking about here is construction cost. The engineering cost is gonna have to be handled locally, no matter how it's handled. Okay, in my opinion. So the city got this money, so we made the cut, and I talked to Nikki Stin, who's the local systems engineer at the DOT. She said our project's kind of the poster child project for this program.
Cool.
This is going to help. They got excited as they were reviewing it because of it's multi-jurisdictional, and it's in a historically disadvantaged area. Those are the two things that she said really make this project kind of stand out. Okay. Are we guaranteed to get the grant money? No, there's no guarantees. Do we have a pretty good chance? I talked to two different people. They said, yeah, we feel this is going to be a really pretty good application. And so what does this bring to the table? So that, you know, has to be your question is what, you know, how does this help? So the most federal dollars you can get. Okay. I'm almost, you know, I'm going to generalize here, but generally speaking, 80% of the cost of the total cost of the project is the most you can get. Okay. So if we have a $3 million project, you get 2.4 million. Okay. However, the city doesn't have to use the 1.5 million in federal city bridge money. Okay. There's also $500,000 in state city bridge money that's allocated every year. And please don't listen to me. Okay. What could happen, okay, is that we could submit and we could use 80%, 2.4 million under this program, not use the 1.5 million, and they switch it and they use 500,000 in state money. So all of a sudden we got $2.9 million.
City bridge for $100,000.
Right. This is all hypothetically speaking,
Right, exactly.
based on the fact that you get a grant. Now, here's the catch. I have to let them know
By Friday. I saw that.
And somebody's gonna have to spend $20,000
Number
or
7.
agree to spend $20,000, because what happens is that we put this together and then collectively, through our service bureau, hire a consultant to put the grant application together. And they're saying that the counties would have to, or, you know, the counties now here, this is why it's gonna take some of us, if I'm just throwing this out here. You all tell me what I should do. This is not my bridge. Okay. If you want to move forward with this, is going to have to visit with the city and see, you know, who's going to spend, who's going to say we're willing to spend. It's going to be something. They think 20,000 is going to be the most that it would cost. Okay, a county or an entity submitting. To put this application together. So you have to kind of bet on the come. You have to hope, you know, putting the money on red or black and
Yeah.
hoping it's not green, but they do feel that we have a pretty good shot at it. We could, so, I called Brad right away and he's not well today, so we couldn't have a conversation.
Okay.
But anyhow, unfortunately, we're kind of, and then you have to, this January or September 2027 deadline, which this project can't be developed in 4 3/4 years, and there's something wrong, I guess, but.
But if I'm looking at this, you have to know all of this by Friday,
Mhm.
but
That's what I'm saying. That's the catch.
there's the big.
That's the catch.
So
Yeah.
my question would it be that we were gonna ask the city to share that 20, or are we doing this
We should
together?
let
That's what I'm here talking, that's what I'm here
Okay,
talking
okay.
That should be
about.
their 20%.
Yeah, yeah.
It should be.
Well, I don't know. I have no one at the city is aware of this.
Yeah.
Okay, no one at the city is aware, other than
I
the
don't-
fact Pam and Corey and Brad were here. And I
Yes.
said that I had advanced this project through the county, not knowing where it would land, kind of through our association. So there's a lot of things that we're doing this with right now.
Yeah.
So
But again, understand my motivation.
do we need to
Okay.
be on their agenda tonight? It'd be
Too
too
late for
late,
that.
too late,
It's
absolutely too late.
Yeah,
So how would you go about?
there'd have to be special meetings.
I'm point of order. I'm okay with spending a 50/50 on this 20. But if this doesn't come through, you're gonna have a hard time talking me into taking money off of our projects that we're supposed to do in the county to work on this city bridge. If we get this, rock on. But if we don't get this, I don't want them thinking that we're gonna just shell out money, because they seem to think we're able to do that.
And tie that, I'm sorry.
No, I was just thinking after his statement that if this grant comes through, I mean, obviously there'll be some bartering on who pays for what service, or, the engineering and all that stuff. We can always have that in like the kind of like, all right, we already put down 20,000 to get this far. We're only gonna, you pay 10 on the next, or you pay the next 20,000.
Mhm.
That way we'd have something solid by Friday,
Yeah,
keep
that's
this moving.
a good point, Cal.
Yeah.
Good point.
I have
Because
a-
otherwise, I hate to see it get hung up over a technicality of a $3 million project on a $20,000 who's paying for what tit for tat deal.
And up to 20, it isn't.
But that
Yeah,
same time
right.
that they have, can they use that for consultant fees, or is that only for construction?
That I don't know.
Because if they could, that would make it easy.
Yeah, that I don't know. And what I'm trying to do here is, and I mentioned this at the meeting last week, they talked about using federal dollars to pay for engineering fees, which I would avoid that just because of the complexities of it. We typically wouldn't do that because it gets really
You
complicated.
do it all though.
We do most all of it. We don't do everything, but we do all, a lot of it. So, but we do hire consultants to help us design our bridges. But we don't use federal dollars. So to answer your question, Gene, the ideal situation that could unfold here is that the city says, hey, we want to swap those out for the $500,000 in state dollars, so you can match them with the federal dollars that you would get through this grant here. So first thing that would have to happen is that the grant would be approved. Okay. The next thing that would have to happen is going back to the state and saying, okay, how can we flip flop this so that we can optimize the raised grant funds that we get and switch it. And so those discussions are taking place right now. I close that question. And there's going to be a meeting this morning and
That's the
so-
state.
DOT, yeah. I hope I'm not overstepping my bounds here.
Oh, I don't think you are. I think you're.
Because I haven't talked to the city at all.
I think most of the
You're the
meeting
fund-
the other day, I think Brad would appreciate
Yeah,
the extra mile that you're going
Yeah.
for.
It's not like we can sit on it for a day, because we have to
You don't
know.
build bridges.
Right.
unfortunately, and I hate when this happens.
I do
When you get
too.
something on Tuesday morning or late yesterday afternoon, and you got to act on it this quick.
Right.
And so what's happening is this group of engineers are meeting next Tuesday because they want to keep it moving forward because there's deadlines for the grant application. So they had to sort through all of these bridges that were submitted in the state. And they picked 12 of them, and ours was one.
That's
in this city.
congratulations.
Yeah, so I was happy about that.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I mean, it preserves, because these are discretionary grant federal dollars at the federal level. Is that if we are able to get this, it preserves the city's federal bridge money. If we switch that around, it saves us a lot of local costs. And really kind of just brings another chunk of money to the state of Iowa, and specifically to Crawford County and Denison. I don't know that it's going to happen, but I think it's worth a shot personally. I wouldn't be bringing it to you, but there's a number of things I have to answer here.
So
This wasn't on the agenda for approval. So I don't know.
You got a little spark winner. You drive across this bridge more than ever, but anybody else here, so.
you're right. Don't put a car counter on it.
Yeah.
You'd be
That
amazed.
little Prius
that
won't even
bridge-
bump them bubbles on that
That
car.
bridge is well used, but like I was talking to Paul,
Yeah.
our truck traffic on it is minimal. Because nobody wants to drive that curvy old road.
Yeah.
But, you know, guys like Kyle Schultz or Kyle Brooks, they're out- yeah, but another Kyle,
I
they're
drive
out there every day, you
Yeah.
know, I mean, so I think it's a good development tool, or something that needs to be developed. I actually like the idea of the walking bridge, but you know, like you brought up, how much money is that at?
Walking bridge to nowhere unless they
Yeah.
know where it's.
Well, without a sidewalk.
Without a sidewalk.
It
Like
is,
you see
it
a lot
is
of
tied,
trucks on
but,
Battery Road.
in the environment that we're in right now, okay. When you look at nationally connectivity, you know, these are all things that really check boxes that these people at those federal levels are looking at now. I don't know where that'll land, and that's something we probably need to talk about before we put the final number in here. And there's got to be a lot of discussion in the next couple of days with somebody at the city to say, what do you want it, you know, what do you want this to be? So I'm willing to kind of, you know, help them or work through that, because if you add that, you know, that wasn't in that 2.5 million. That's why I'm saying 3 million. You
Did
know,
we
'cause
set up a
they
meeting
don't
with
know.
them today? Well, Brad's not
He's
in.
not in, and I, you know, yeah.
Can we set a
Do
meeting?
you
up?
want to talk to Pam?
Yep.
And,
She's
and,
just getting home from New York.
okay,
She's been gone.
you want to talk to Pam,
Yep.
and I could
Express
meet maybe,
Yep.
you know, later this afternoon or tomorrow morning or
Yep.
something, and go over all of
Tomorrow
this.
morning would be good,
Yeah, tomorrow
because
morning,
I've got mental health meetings tomorrow
Yeah.
afternoon.
yeah.
So if this 20 is up to 20 is important this week, we probably need to do something on this board right now. I mean, if everybody's
Well,
Consensus.
I'm gonna have to answer, so here are the questions.
a consensus.
It's all we could do. We take no action.
Can't take action.
Yeah, you can't take action because it's
We'd
not
have to have
on the agenda.
Yeah.
What's that?
So let me go through the questions,
Okay.
so everybody understands. Okay, is the estimate given still accurate? We're looking for pretty solid numbers. I'll visit with the consultant that did it to find out, you know, hey, if we add this, hey, you know, let's make it high enough. Let's make the estimate high enough. Will you be administering the project yourself? And I think, you know, county/city, we're probably gonna administer the project.
So that's what you
think
put.
you
county
would.
and city.
Well, that was one of the things I offered up at the proposal last week, was that we would, you know, I mean, it's gonna be a lot more work for us, but that could be our contribution to the engineering side of things.
Okay.
Is
So the
kind of what we
answer is
laid out. So the answer would be yes, I think. Okay, if everyone's okay with that.
Yes,
Okay, the most recent inspection data, we have that. I've got the report right here. Can you guarantee the project will be ready for obligation 30 days before the letting by September 30th, 2027? If we can't develop the project in that time, we don't deserve the money. I mean, it's.
When was the
it's
date?
almost September 30th, 2027.
7.
It's almost 4 or 5 years from now.
If you can't, you're fired.
Projects take a long time sometimes. But,
So,
but anyhow, do you have any agreements started that are required for the project? We don't, and they know that. I've already told them. Yeah, well, this project wasn't even really on the radar screen until about 3 or 4 months ago.
Yep.
So would you entertain being a lead applicant Okay, so some county's gonna have to step up and do the lead on this. I don't know that I want to do that. Okay, because there has to be somebody that represents the group. I don't know what it all involves, but I don't know that I want to do that. I think I'll take it off enough the way it is.
How much of an issue would the railroad be? And I mean, we're going over that.
I don't know, Ty.
Because that might push you over 2027, the way they are.
Well, I mean, some projects do take a long time to develop. However, we just don't know. People build bridges over the railroad. It happens. It's happening all the time because there are railroads all over, and they prefer to have those as opposed to at-grade crossings. They
Yeah.
don't want at-grade crossings.
Yeah.
So I think they'd probably be. To answer your question, I don't know, but I know it happens. And we'll work
Okay.
through it. We'll work through it.
Okay,
Um,
I mean, that's a busy rail line.
Find somebody to talk to, that's your biggest challenge.
right.
Bridge on it themselves this year, so it's not
Yeah,
impossible.
it's finding the right people
Yep.
and then just hoping that they stay around long enough till the project's
Yeah,
done.
he no longer works here.
Yeah. And then are you Board of Supervisors willing to pay roughly, and this is an estimate, 20,000. The people I talk to feel that's the highest it would go for a consultant to prepare the raise grant application. So those are the 7 questions that I have to answer before Friday.
I guess the number 7 directly affects this board, and
Well, we can't take any action.
No,
on it
but-
right
Can't take
now.
any action.
I think we could give the consult.
Consensus.
I guess I'm willing to step that up, like, in my own belief is.
And then I could put it on the agenda for next Tuesday if you want, because they're gonna meet, this group is gonna meet next Tuesday. So if there's some discussions that take place between now and then, and you say, hey, I just call them up,
Pull it.
but we could put it on the agenda for approval officially next Tuesday. And in the interim, I could say, well, okay, or,
I could survive with that. I mean, since you got clarification on what we talked about this morning, if that's even our bridge, I mean.
yeah,
And
it's not ours, it's the city's.
Well, I
But it's the
mean,
bridge we're talking.
the bridge number
Yeah,
was
The
correct.
bridge number was,
It's a
yeah, there was
Crawford
a,
County.
yeah.
In the
It's
county
here,
area.
it's here. Yeah.
But so, I mean, it wasn't that we were on there accidentally. We were intended.
It threw me a curveball.
Well, I mean, that me too.
Because I was looking at my map, and that's not the same bridge.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I could get along with
Yeah.
that. What do you think? Yeah. Gene,
Okay,
obviously.
okay.
Sounds like.
Put it on
So I'll wait to hear from
It's
you.
kind of impressive. that
I
we're one of
will
the-
call as soon as we get done. It should be in our contract.
Yeah, and then you let me know.
I will be
Tomorrow
on it.
And if
morning.
there's
I think it's
something that
pretty
screws
much-
it up, we may say no. But it should.
We have till next Tuesday. So, because that's when the official, let me just check
Some
tomorrow.
people
to
work
make
best
sure.
under pressure.
Yeah, I got a tax meeting tomorrow, at 10, Carol.
That work best every
Earlier the better,
sunshine.
earlier the better.
Okay.
8 o'clock. maybe.
Yep.
Okay. And then I have a couple of other things I know that I did, because I knew that was gonna take some time. So I have received the road crossing permit applications for Carmen Southern Solutions. Okay, I visited with, I went to the Hunger Canyons meeting last week, and I sat next to a Pop County Soil and Water Conservation Commissioner and a Shelby County board member.
Ooh,
And anyhow, I've always taken a neutral, I feel my professional role is a neutral position on this. But they are not approving these permits, Shelby County in particular, until they're sure the project's going.
Is there a timeline we have to do them?
No,
Then let's not get in a big hurry.
it's all in our court. So they will have to be approved by you. I received them last week. I haven't done anything with them. I'm sensitive to the fact that people are supportive of it, and there's some people that are not supportive of it. And so you'll have to tell me when you think it's appropriate to bring those to you.
Have you done any research on what all they're tearing up when they do this? And is there any restrictions that we can place on that? Because, some of the things where I see where they tear, it's like they're building basements for skyscrapers.
Yeah.
There's some pictures out there that
Mhm. Yeah, I heard all kinds of horror stories last week.
Well, there you go.
So, We'll have to have, you know, I mean, we're pretty thorough when we sit down with people and talk about permits, you know, at this level.
Good.
We go out and do a field recon, we look at all the sites, we'll talk about them in detail. So there's gonna be some work involved on our end to even get to these to
Point of order.
approval.
Will you take Troy on these things with you?
He's
You'll be-
really dealing with private, he wouldn't have any.
He wouldn't have anything to do with like the soil moving on, because it'd still be on property owner's ground.
Well, and there's the catch, see,
That's why I'm
If you
asking.
got a
because
landowner-
The more information he's got, the better he's gonna serve it.
but I don't know that he needs to.
Okay.
Because we're gonna be watching out primarily for our interest, but there's the catch, we don't own that property.
Yeah.
We only have an
That's just it.
easement to maintain a roadway, and if I issue a permit to allow something that a property owner is opposed to, that's a problem.
That's a problem.
I mean, I
So-
assume that Casey will probably do the inspecting on our behalf, or you and Casey.
Yeah, we'll have somebody out there.
You know, I mean, I mean, if you've got two entities, Troy is aware of what's going on, and especially if, because it looked like some of that where they're digging the hole down to do the bore into,
Yeah, the board.
you know, when
pits.
that looked like that was in field ground
Mhm.
on the pictures that I've seen.
They're probably gonna have to. be.
So that's why I wondered if you'd take Troy, because
Yeah.
he probably needs to know what the
Yeah.
hell's going on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
If they
we
bore.
could.
Okay, that's why I'm
If
asking.
they bore under.
If they bore, yeah.
If-
They're proposing to bore into the paved roads and open cut on the rest of them,
Yeah.
is what they're proposing
It's a
right now.
proposal.
And, you know, it's not necessarily out of line. It's just, you know. how
What will
deep
that
they
do to
go.
our subgrade?
It'll whack it out for.
It's like putting in a new culvert, Ty, you know, it takes a year or so for it to season, you know. and
Gotta
then
go
you-
through a frost.
But it's only that
It
wide.
should theoretically be only a few feet wide, right? So, but I haven't even gone to that level yet because I don't know that it's appropriate to approve these permits until we know
That's a good point.
that, because if you approve a road crossing permit on a piece of property that somebody doesn't want
I think we
to
should
be on
wait.
there, then that.
Yeah. I'm,
So I'm just gonna sit tight on them. If it comes to you, you know that I've got them, but I just haven't done anything with them.
I'm in favor of a trip to Manila.
And then the trip to Manila, you know, I'm trying to get some information from their zoning, but let's pick a date. Let's go down there and take a look at that. You know, and then the next, you know, we can go to Manila sometime.
Yeah.
I mean,
Good after a board
Charter Oak,
meeting.
we go to Charter Oak sometimes. but
Let's
What
do
we
it
got next Tuesday?
After a board meeting.
next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday's fine.
13th.
I'd like to just do it
I'm on it.
Yeah.
all together.
yeah.
and-
You probably have to attend. We won't stop down at the bowling alley, so you won't get hell from.
I don't think the juice will be open.
Okay.
Larry Kess's-
You wanna do it next Thursday, next Tuesday?
Yes.
Yeah,
13th?
we can meet.
You have it.
Do something else. meet
Okay,
at the-
okay, we'll plan on that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Anytime.
thanks for your,
I'll let you know what, when I.
let me know
yeah, yeah.
what Pam has to say, okay? Thank you.
Dwayne, you got a couple of tax abatements to bring before us?
Terry
I
Ford,
certainly
that makes it
do.
nice,
Let's see, which one did we have?
Barn Grover.
Farm Grover, yeah.
I think I lost it.
Glenn.
So Glenn's, I'll have to admit, I had on my desk for a couple weeks. I didn't get it to you guys. I think I missed one of the meetings where I wasn't gonna be here, so whatever. But so Glenn's is for a 3-car garage and a 2-story addition. It's a very sizable addition. I don't know if any of you are familiar with where Glenn lives down
I am
in the
not.
south part of Denison off of a couple miles north of the county line, right on the west, or I'm sorry, east mile from Highway 59. So.
What's total?
He's
cost?
thinking he's gonna be somewhere in the $150,000 range. Keep in mind that it ends up whatever the market value adds. So, and he would ask for a 3-year 100%. He's got his building permit. I don't see any reason to not approve it.
I so move we approve it.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the tax abatement for the Glen Barn Grover edition. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye, all opposed. Looks like we get a new house for Corey and.
So then the next one's on Donna Reed Road. I'm sure you guys have seen some of the construction out there, so this is another one towards the southern edge of, where the last couple were built. And you're right, it's Corey and Stephanie Schmedke. They're building a new residence, talking, I think their building permit, which I did not bring, but maybe it was somewhere in the $500,000 range. And they're building a new house, so they want the 3-year 100%.
Was that down far, that's on, that's out on the county. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm,
Yep.
yep.
That's why
Right
we're
next to the
approving.
brother,
Mhm.
that went to Toby Land.
Okay. I'd make the motion, we approve that.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to approve the new house tax abatement for the Schmecke family. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Perfect. 10:20,
25.
Yeah.
Thanks for making it easy.
you got something I need to sign.
That's why
I
I
need to
was
sign
asking.
now.
Yeah, you have time?
24
Yep.
goes lower than
Right
that.
on. But there's
Uh,
no reason to 2520, which there's.
Can we
I need to-
set a date and time for the public hearing in regard to this vacation of streets in Kenwood?
Can we do it next week?
Nope,
Nope.
Good try. I think Martha talked about the 27th.
27th, I
Yeah,
think
we
is
did.
about the earliest we
Like
can get
that
it
stuff
done.
done.
27,
27th it shall be,
10,
What
15,
time?
10:15.
Oh,
right after fall.
Fine, that's what you guys want, 10:15 in the boardroom on the 27th.
I'll make a motion. At the time and place. 27th at 10:15.
In the board then.
You're in
Second,
the boardroom.
Ken, move and second to set date and time. for Public hearing, vacating street in Kenwood for December 27th at 10:15 in the boardroom. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. 10:23, wind turbine construction compliance certificate. All got the latest and greatest.
Latest.
This should incorporate all the changes that the board has been discussing with Dwayne in our office over the past several weeks.
Thanks, Alan.
I think the latest iteration includes the decommissioning section on the second page. I believe we messed with some of the heights. I defer to Dwayne.
Well,
So I believe
Yes,
that
with
the 2.5 times is for the consenting or participating.
Yep.
And the 3.5 is for the non-consenting or non-participating.
non-participating.
I believe, I think everything else in there. I think we had some conversation afterwards, like Colin pointed out, and I said, no, why don't we add reference to that decommissioning? And that's one less thing to forget, you know, when somebody comes in with a proposal.
Granted, these are all susceptible if you sign off on it and build a lot closer.
Yeah, and I did throw in that, which would be under B.
So it's from the foundation of occupied
After
homes.
Steve was in here last week and brought up that. The more I thought about it, the more I thought that was a good idea, so that's up for your either to leave in here or strike. That would be from non-participating property lines, and it's a lot lower number than.
That's B, correct?
Correct, B,
Yep.
under setbacks, under B, under setback requirements.
Okay,
And the key thing to remember is all setback requirements aren't like concrete setback, you know, they're all open for variance.
for non-participating landowners.
You see how that is?
Yeah,
Basically, what Steve Mummy brought up last week, and it's something we've actually discussed, and I do remember where there was a couple ordinances that I'd read through that were like in Illinois, and I think one was even in yeah, Michigan was even a video about that, but I think the other one was maybe Minnesota. But anyway, that was, they had where there was property line, a separate one on property lines, which was a lower. And then like Michigan, where everything was way high, so I don't think they even want windmills up there, but which is their business.
But, I think that this actually does a pretty good job of addressing most people's concerns. I'm sure somebody out there is getting missed yet, but they aren't here either, so. We also bumped the notification by mail of adjoining property owners or, property owners to the 3.5 times.
3.5.
I think that was something Rufus Ty or somebody else that brought up.
So where's that?
Typically, that's like
Right-
on a
right
cell
at the very
phone
end.
tower, that's
Or the very end.
1,500 feet.
Mhm.
So,
Right above the signature.
so if this is if this is 500 foot, then you're 3.5 times that, so you're 1,500 plus 250, so.
Just to make sure that everybody gets notified, it's within the,
Within 3.5
absolutely.
times overall.
So it's actually a little further.
that way nobody ever stops in here and saying, well, I wasn't notified and I'm within 100 yards of it or whatever.
So when the turbine companies are proposing, they come to Crawford County. I think one of the concerns that we had last time was that the homeowners didn't know that they were even talking about it until it was all set in stone. Is there any consideration given to that, when they're in the negotiation part of it? Because what happens is that they've signed it and the neighbors who don't have one on their property doesn't even really realize that there's one coming through. When do they get notified?
So if they're more than the 3.5 times, they aren't going to.
They
get
aren't going to,
notified,
okay,
Other than reading the public notice that's published.
okay,
Yeah.
because this only is on a variance that they get notified, but that was one of the concerns we had
But to
last
get the
time.
permitting, they'll have to be notified. Otherwise, they won't grant the permit.
To get, so,
Unless they have to be within that 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5.
So what I kind of envision is typically when a wind company comes in, they want to know what the requirements are. We give them this for requirements. They will most likely come back with their permits with a plan of the area.
mhm,
And it will, in my mind, it will probably have like circles, the 2.5 circle and the 3.5 circle, and probably the landowner names. And then maybe a list of these are participating, these are non-participating. So we would have to review that for people that are, probably the critical area would be non-participating within that 3.5. And, those would throw up the red flags or the questions. And again, if you're outside the 3 point, you gotta have a distance somewhere.
right,
So
yeah.
if you're outside the 3.5 times the height, then, like I said, probably the only thing you're gonna see is the public notice.
And then Gina, if I understand your question correctly, you're kind of talking about the timing of the notice. And like you were talking about, they would only get the notice of the 3, if they're within 3.5 times when the variance was applied,
Right,
which is kind of late in the game. when
Right.
it was a concern in the
right,
product
that's my
safety.
concern.
But that's kind of part of owning the property and having rights to your properties. You don't have to double check your contracts with your neighbor. I know this is a little bit different because it's a big wind tower, not like a purchase of a car,
Yeah,
for example. But when you're a landowner and you own that land, you have a right to contract on that land. And there's only so much the county can do to try to account for, and I believe the board is trying really hard to account for adjoining landowners, but when you own land, you own the right to use the land as you want.
It's not true. Me. I don't know if I can jump in, you can't do whatever you want to on your own land.
Well, I didn't mean to say that it's, no holds barred on your land, the law still applies, but I guess my point was more towards a landowner has the right to contract with their land.
Is there a reason why you can't have, like you're notifying people if their house isn't so many feet from where one's being proposed to be built? Can it be to their property line though? I mean, if I have my 10 acres or 100 acres or whatever, and my house is in the middle, obviously my house, my foundation isn't close, within the limits of where one is being put up or installed, but my property is, it's changing what I can do on my property at the border of my property.
My property
You know what I
value is
mean?
going down because of participating
Yeah,
landowners. You're affecting
You're changing the
my
value
style.
of the bordering edge of my property based
So-
on one being there.
If you, say you own an acre within 3.5 times the height, you would get a written notice of their request for a variance or a permit to build whatever they're
So
building.
based on my property. or
If
not my
you're-
house.
Right.
Okay.
Now, when you start doing the distances, the 2.5, I think it says from your foundation, doesn't it?
Yes.
They're talking
Yes.
500 feet towers for Crawford
The
County.
last one,
Whatever,
I'm trying to think of
that's
the
why we
last
put a
people
multiplier
that-
in place.
That's why we put the multiplier in, so that it varies with the height of the tower,
We're talking 1,500 feet.
if it's 500.
Yeah.
That's
The last
fif-
times that came forward and stuff.
3.5 times would be 1750.
Right. That's not gonna affect my property value.
I can't answer that.
You guys can't. You were not, you're not,
So you,
choosing not to.
I guess as the board, we're trying to make this as pleasable for everybody. I mean,
We can't stop business, but we can try to do our best to help protect it.
so your adjoining property owner, he wants all the ones on his property that he can get, because he's all pro wind, so we're supposed to tell him he can't put them on there? I mean,
That's true. Somebody should tell him you can't, because he's affecting.
I get it, you guys are obviously against wind energy, you know, and I get that, I understand that, and I respect that, but we're trying to respect both sides of
Right. Yeah.
all issues here.
You mentioned Minnesota. There's setbacks, they just don't want them.
No, it was Michigan. And I don't think,
Michigan.
I don't know that they don't want them, because the guy's comment was that he wasn't against wind, but they had setbacks that were, basically gonna stop the wind energy from coming.
Well, but
And
he
that's a
said
bad
in that
thing.
video that it would made setbacks so that the non-participating and the participating landowners can negotiate something that works for them. That took you guys out of the equation, I believe is what he
I
said.
know, that's what thought we were doing here.
Well, we kind of went on a really low end instead of the high end, like you said.
That's 1,700 feet from my house. Not-
Very
That's a
The
non.
low end is what it is right now, 1,000 feet.
Right, I agree, that's what we're here though, to slow this thing down a little bit, make it a little easier for non-participating.
So we had a place out of Canada come to us probably a month ago. They are proposing a project. My understanding is before they can do anything, they've got to have a big public meeting. That's what they did with the carbon pipeline thing coming through. The number of people that are there compared, in my opinion, was pretty minimal, but after the fact, everybody wants to come in and say, well, you should have did this and you should have did that. Well, you should get to these meetings when they start at the very beginning. So, and my understanding, the little gal that was here with that Canada company, my understanding was they were gonna I asked her, are you gonna notify everybody before this that's gonna be within this project? Yes, she said they were going to. I thought all these letters would be out in November about this. Never seen a thing about it because I would have property in the area where they're coming through, but they've got to, so they should be notifying everybody. Everybody should be showing up at these meetings. All we're trying to do with this is trying to protect, in my opinion, helping everybody out as best we can, because something's better than nothing. Because if we don't put anything in place, we're gonna be at their mercy, just like the pipeline, there's counties that are getting sued over this pipeline thing. So I think the key component here is if you're anti-wind energy, you better show up those meetings, you better be talking to your neighbors.
So we will get a notice if we're within that, and then what do we do?
That was my understanding from the little gal with I wish I could remember what the name of that place was. If you'd like her contact information, I would be more than happy to give you that.
But I think that part of the problem is that it's our understanding, and that's what we think should happen. But I still worry that this is gonna be like the other projects, it's all signed up and down the road, and then, and I'm trying to figure out a way to avoid that
Right.
it's all been, they said $4 million so far to get these people signed up, you can't stop it now. and you never really, it's kind of done, you know, in, and I appreciate, you know, we really are hammering it out, trying really, really hard to get that happy medium that, you know, to close it down for business, that's not what we can do as board of supervisors at this point in time. We're just trying to make it, so by the setback requirements, do you guys have a copy of this? Okay, you know, I think we've made great progress in a distance 2 times the height of the energy return from the tip of the highest blade at the 12 o'clock position from the property lines of adjoining but not participating landowners. That's
I do have a comment. Why is our state or county park a 2-mile radius around that? Why is that more important than someone living there 24 hours a day? Why don't non-participating landowners have a 2-mile radius too?
That's a good question.
Well, the 2 miles was put down on there and nobody's rebutted it. Would you like to say it should be less?
No, she's saying.
I'd like to
opposite.
increase the landowners, the non-participating landowners.
Well, then that closes the county for business. It does. It just closes it for business. We did it for the parks, so it gives you any room to expand it in the future if you would, if somebody would, people donate ground to churches and parks and stuff like that. If somebody want to donate some ground. So that's one of the reasons for the 2 miles, so that you didn't have a windmill inside the park. All right, so it gives room for developing the park. The other thing is, I like to think, I mean, we all go out there, we don't go out with pup tent or teepee anymore, but we go out with a nice big fancy camper. But we do go out there to get to be part of nature, to walk trails and to fish with our kids, you know, to be able to enjoy recreation of the
I agree.
the
with
Old
all of
West.
that.
So I mean,
appreciate that.
that's kind of the two parts of that is, we got 2 parks. I mean, if we had big parks all over, you know, maybe you do it a little different, but
So my concern is you're going out there for a weekend. We're living in it 24 hours a day.
well,
365 days.
You like that?
You're protecting where you want to go for a weekend.
well, I'm not protecting where I want to go. I don't go that much, mind you, but I'm protecting the parks because it's also a form of tourism for the community
Right.
and all those other things.
But by bringing more wind turbines into Crawford County, I've already had people say on our Facebook page, I won't move there. I won't put a house there. I'll put a turbine up, but I'm never gonna build there, is what somebody from Sussex told me. So we're trying to figure out, do we really want any more in Crawford County?
Well, some people don't, obviously you.
Obviously me, and I put an informal Facebook poll, which has nothing to do with what this is, but not one person wanted to get me. I had 20 people respond. 2 people said they didn't, and I asked, okay, what is the benefit? He goes, well, I didn't want it. They hit the wrong button.
Oh,
So if that helps. And then I talked to someone yesterday who didn't even know this was coming in. It's just now getting out. There's got to be a better way for our county board to get it out to the county citizens and let them come in. I mean, you're assuming that they're not here because they know. What if they're not here because they don't know anything's going on?
and we found that out with the, you know, that as we go along, the word gets out and then the room fills up, and as we're doing these, you know, and we do realize people are working, you know, if you have a job, you can't just stop Tuesday at 9 o'clock and come up, that you have to kind of read it and have an opinion, but you can't always take every Tuesday off. But boy, are we trying.
I know, I appreciate all your
We
efforts, but I just
really
think we're not
are,
quite there.
Well, I guess, what level of responsibility is it for us to make sure that be suitable? I mean, we publish everything, we put it on. I don't know what we're supposed to do to have,
How many
how can we have
people-
force people to read
Let's,
newspapers or Facebooks or websites? How can we
Maybe we
force
should do
people to do
nothing.
that?
maybe we should just do nothing, let them come through and you can all deal with them at the meetings.
I mean,
Go to the meeting and deal with
Yeah, but
the
that's not.
people if we don't do anything.
We need something in place
Right.
because we found that out with the.
yeah, and that's why
Right,
we're,
and now we try to do something with that. And
I appreciate.
we-
what
do
we're
we wanna
doing, I
get
just would
sued?
like more.
Well, and I mean, are these perfect numbers for everybody? Well, obviously not for you,
Right.
or you guys, but I mean,
I guess compared to the 1,000 feet we got now, this is pretty close to perfect for me, but I don't want to close Crawford County for business. I don't want it to say that we're not open for business. You know, because these wind turbines, number one, they generate power for our nation and for Crawford County. And it also shows that Crawford County is in the business of green energy. You know, I mean, we don't want everybody to think that we're, you know, just a fossil fuel county. But I think that we also have to do the best we can to protect you. I mean, the most that I've seen, I don't remember what that was, four times the height on the ones that I looked at. And I don't know, I thought I got
Non-participating.
for non-participating. I thought 33.5 was pretty close on that. Because there was more of them that were less than that than we're at 4. You know, so I thought we're splitting that difference or even kind of erring on the side towards 4. Because right now we're erring closer to what the max was that I found on the ones that I looked at that were given to me to look at and that I researched and found. But I mean, that's where I come up with that number, 3.5. You know, it wasn't the highest it was, but it was sure a long ways from the lowest, which there's some counties that don't have any. Now, Lee County doesn't have an ordinance 1. You know, I mean, but the I mean,
But you've got so many counties in Iowa that are fighting this totally. I mean, have we checked with other ones on why they're fighting it?
well, some of them are about that. Some of them are, you know, like Madison County is all about their bridges and they don't want them around anywhere. They just
I
don't
think
want them.
that's tied up in
for a
the
reason.
Supreme Court now.
Their expansion, yeah.
Yeah.
Why doesn't Michigan?
I-
Why doesn't Lee?
But then you're asking us to just take one side of it. You're not asking us to be fair. I mean, our job isn't to be the absolute rule here. None of us are wanting to be the absolute definition or
Right.
not want us to dictate anything.
I wouldn't want to be in your guys'
Dictating, yeah, I
I-
think that's a good
I
word.
get
Ty.
that.
Dictating
I mean,
the,
For non-participating owner, landowners, we're being dictated. And
Mr. Regular,
to me, it's 10%.
I'm
just sitting here neutral.
Okay.
He's learning.
Okay, I just was curious.
We need to probably work on this. I think you put it in the right spots. It's fine. They probably got some rights here. And once they gotta figure out what they have to do. My honest opinion. There's areas you should.
No.
We just gotta figure out. If you go into an area that's maybe low populated, very, close to houses and stuff, I agree.
I agree.
Find the areas that can be good. Find the areas you should be good. If your distance is gonna have to be who's the individual and where it's at. If you're gonna put it in the middle of 20 people, you're at a bad spot. I've been through this already. But there's a lot of areas.
Kent, did you have any input on this?
I'm late to the party and I apologize for that. I'm one of those people who's
Well,
not
you
on
brought
social
some.
media nor gets any newspaper. So I'm in the dark and that's on me. That's not on you, obviously. But I did get hold of some information. The curiosity was, and it was slightly addressed already, but I still have concern about it. The 2-mile setback from an incorporated area versus a 1-mile setback from an unincorporated area. My perspective would be that that is favoring, obviously, the incorporated area. If I have a home in an unincorporated area or out in the open, I feel like I should have the same treatment, I guess, as those in an incorporated area. And for the record, I live in Denison, Iowa, so I'm not somebody who's affected out in the country. I'm just coming at it from that perspective.
I can probably try to address that, Ken. The incorporated areas are cities or towns, the potential for new development. and that, and where in fact, when I was looking through a lot of those, they didn't even have anything for unincorporated. I mean, I threw that in because what if Byrne wants to build somebody wants to develop a few houses out in Byrne, per se, just using that one for instance, that's my typical example. But, so you still had some room for development there to where you didn't have a windmill right over your head. But there are very few of the unincorporateds that are developing, but it still did leave room for that without shutting down more of the county. I mean, we discussed even going only a mile from corporate, but then, and I use this example, I was at a graduation up in Schleswig and standing right outside the door of the new golf clubhouse. And there's that windmill that's just west of there. I mean, and it's just there. And I'm thinking, oh my God, you'd never get anybody to develop going that direction. And that, you could sit there and hear it from the doorstep. So I thought, well, that's kind of stifling their westerly growth. So if the city wanted to still do that, I mean, they could go ahead and allow the variance. But at least that gets them alerted to the fact that somebody's wanting to build there. That was my philosophy in that 2 miles. And then the 1 mile wasn't given favoritism to the corporate, but the corporate ones, you got more of a chance of developing.
Sure. I guess we see a trend along Donnery Road of more and more housing being built. And I haven't measured them. I don't have a clue. They're likely within the 2 mile range, but maybe they're not. That could have an effect on that. And I think we're getting some nice valued homes being put into those areas, which I assume that's what this is all about, is the potential for tax revenue. Is that right?
There's always that potential.
I mean, otherwise, why would the supervisor?
Although it's not at full credit.
What's that?
It's the winds.
So you're talking about the development of the homes or the?
This ain't
Saying
what
about
that's
that.
This is not about what it can generate for property.
No.
Yeah.
The development aspect would be what it could develop for homeowners plus county revenue, obviously on the homeowners side.
Yeah.
But I mean, as
That's
far as
where-
what we're making off the wind turbines, well, that's a sore subject more than that with us. So, I mean, that doesn't make us pro-wind. What makes me pro-wind is, some farmers want that. So I have to, in my mind, I have to respect their side of the coin too. And I went out and talked to some that don't show up at these meetings and that's kind of an even split on who wants it and who don't. I think you'll probably find that some of them aren't building them even if they could.
So we would say we take more if they offer them because that's how they get what they're doing.
Is eminent domain a factor in this?
We hope never. We hope never.
It could be.
We hope
It could
Presently
be.
not.
We
The
hope
way
never.
eminent domain is in Iowa right now, it could be.
Huh.
Yeah, We're a little nervous
You're
about
in
that
the
as this
way and-
board.
But
Pipeline sets precedence.
right, absolutely. But if we have, our certificate in place, then they'd have to obey. And as long as the easements that people are signing refer back to what we already have in place, but we can't come in after they set out their plan and then put this all in place. It has to be in place. So if we have nothing in place, that's what we have, which is nothing very good right now. So we're trying to be ahead of the game here and get something that protects, we're hoping, non-participating, the people that want them, take care of our developments, try to hit every bullet point. And maybe what we should do is, and I'll just put that out, table it until more people get to really get their teeth in what we've come up with, which I think we've done very well. And get some feedback and put it on the agenda for next week. Or
Well, I can tell you, when I was looking at it, I referred back to a document that we were given several months ago, and it says successful county wind siting practices in Iowa. It's put out by the Iowa Environmental Council. And all the counties that they cite in here, talking about their setbacks, et cetera, I think we're going above and beyond what any of these are, any of the suggestions in this manual are. And can't you ask why I believe we're doing this at this time? Because we have a young lady in here from this Liberty energy company, and they said they want to, they're proposing a wind project. It's going to be
They're coming.
Willow, Booyer, Union,
Northwest Counties.
and Paradise. It's gonna be over in the western part of the county.
Southwest.
So what we're trying to do is put something in place so we don't have the same thing happen as we did when the project they want to develop over on the Carroll Crawford line. What is that called? After the fact, we had people come in and say, well, we don't want them this close to us and we don't want all this to happen. So we had to try to help that handful of people as best we could. If we have this in place, it's more definite about what's going on. And if people want them closer, they can have them, but you're a faction who does not want this to happen at all. I can tell you there are people out there that do want it to happen. They want that revenue those towers are going to generate.
This is our ability to exercise home rule. And I will tell you that if we get too carried away, then they're gonna start lobbying the state, and the state's gonna dictate to us what we can or can't do. I mean, if we go out and make Crawford County off limits, before you know it, there's gonna be regulations, just like with this pipeline. It was already basically, cutting in underneath anything that we wanted to do. That's why Shelby County and Story County are in lawsuits right now. You know what I mean? So we're trying to get something that's.
You've got insurance for that. You're not worried about, why are you worried about a lawsuit?
I'm not worried about the lawsuit. I'm worried about, if we do this right, we won't get a lawsuit.
Right.
And we're ahead of the curve at this point. And like Jerry brought up, I mean, I did some research to try to find something that was, not too high, but not so dang low that it was, what's the point, I mean, I thought we were at a pretty happy medium here, actually leaning on the side of.
Why not push it up to your highest 4 times?
I guess that's, the numbers I put on here are what I suggested. The board can actually, redo that if they want to revisit any of these numbers.
To me, the people that are for this have got money in the game. That's guaranteed. And the non-participating landowners are pretty much have no say so in it. Except 4 times, 1,700 feet or 2,000 feet away from my house. That's not much of a choice. It's just like you with a Schleswig, ooh, I wouldn't want that sucker here.
No, no,
But if it was
it's exactly
1,000
right.
feet away, that'd be better. We're not talking.
Is there a way to, wherever they think they're going, if you had a map, whoever the techie people are, take your circles around the incorporated
We do
and
have.
unincorporated, what's left? What's left?
We've got a couple of
Did
them.
anybody,
out there.
Dwight, did you bring that by any
I
chance?
didn't bring it.
Got it in my stuff.
I have it at home, but I did throw it in. We do have.
I got it in the pile back here. It'll be here a week. I'll be looking for it.
So
Yeah.
you were talking a 2-mile radius from.
Right.
Well, no, I'm trying to figure out what, as a board, what level we're supposed to dictate on the citizens of the county.
Well,
I don't think my neighbors don't come to the board when my neighbor wants to put up a new grain bin. Just as loud and obnoxious as a wind turbine.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm just trying to think, where
And they should.
where are we supposed to start and stop? I don't care. I don't want a wind tower next to in my property.
Right.
I don't. But I also understand the need that there's gotta be give and take to where those that do want them can get them. Are we supposed to say we're closed for wind turbines completely, or are we gonna set the bar so high that we end up like Madison County in a lawsuit? I think it's in the Iowa Supreme Court now, I believe, fighting that.
Mid-America pulled out, there's no more lawsuits.
In Madison.
So,
They pulled out.
Mid-America pulled out.
in America, well, I just thought this recently.
I don't know.
I
At
found
what
that.
point are we supposed to, where does this go? I mean, we stop this and what's next? I don't.
I thought it was good in the video that you guys were sent at the end, of when they had the 4-mile radius. It made the company come in and negotiate between the neighbors. So if we put long ones, you can always give a variance. They can come in closer, but they can't come in farther.
I did find the information on the Liberty. They are proposing 30 to 45 turbines, and the turbine tip height is 656 feet.
Which can be seen for at least 30 miles,
650.
I think they said.
Oh.
So, yeah.
I've heard enough. What are we gonna do as a board?
Can I offer
Can
one
I
more
ask
thing? When
you-
when I was looking through that information, one of the things they talked about is setbacks from public buildings like schools and hospitals.
Oh.
Or another thing we addressed with Paul at one time was roads, and we didn't say anything about how far they need to be off of.
Yeah,
our
that's on
roads.
the yard thing,
Did I miss
1.1
it?
times, 1.1 times the height. That's when we got the yard and the side yard and the rear yard, that's addressing road.
Okay, thank you. I didn't understand that.
Yeah, you kind of have to, I read it on my computer and then it's so much easier for me to.
And then that can also get variances too, but probably wouldn't. Well, the only thing I can see is if we would, I think we're covering, nobody's arguing what Kent brought up the 2 miles different versus 1, and
Yeah.
I'm satisfied with 2 versus 1. I really am, because, as far as, well, we've got some of our unincorporated things that are still listed on maps that don't even have houses there anymore. So there's a pretty good, and there's a mile spot out there in a sense then.
Then we
But
need a
that would
definition
come
of-
to us to get approved at this board, But the only thing that I can see is that we're arguing about is some setback numbers. So if this board would like to adjust these numbers, we could vote on this today just by saying, I would approve this with the exception of, going X number from the foundation. I'm even at 2 times the height from, if you've got an 80-acre piece and your house is up in the front side of it and on the back side, there's something that's got to be 2 times the height away. I don't see that as really infringing much on your quality of life.
Unless they want to add another house.
Yeah,
Family.
if they want to do something on that, they're expanding on their property.
But can we also talk about sound? We're talking about setbacks. There's also a sound part in here. How are we gonna monitor that? What's gonna happen if it's over 40?
I would say if you're a landowner, you should probably buy yourself something that monitors that, so you can
And who's
go.
gonna enforce whatever the penalty is to them?
I would say that's a law enforcement issue.
I don't think so. I mean, it's already up by that point.
That's a good
So
question.
somebody having, I don't know,
Who enforces it? What's the fine penalty? What happens if you,
be between you and your contract and them, I guess.
So once they're up and they go over like 50, they're gonna take it down?
If
They're
you
gonna
got it in
stop
your contract that says they can't exceed that,
But
they
we're
could,
non-participating, so we don't have a contract.
well, you're.
If
are
it's
we in there?
written, yours.
Let's just.
You'll have an agreement you sign with them if
Table it for today.
you will have an agreement you sign with them as a non-participating landowner if you're within that region, or, if it's within that 3.5 or.
well, should we raise it up a little higher to
Cindy on Zoom.
put that?
Huh?
Oh, someone on
Yeah,
there.
Cindy on Zoom. Can you hear us, Cindy?
Can they chat back to
There she
her?
is, she's down there, yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Are you muted or what? You can just ask them questions yourself that way.
I understand she has a cold and just having a hard time speaking.
Oh,
So,
That's what it is. Like that.
She just wants to know if we put this certificate in place, can it be amended? More people come forward. Anything's amendable.
Right.
yeah,
And what is in place for height ordinance for Crawford? There is no ordinance for height, as long as it meets
well, as
FAA.
long as it meets FAA, FAA's probably got more control of the airspace, so it's, we could put something out there, but it'd be,
Thanks,
Crawford doesn't
thanks,
have a
Cindy.
height restriction anywhere in any of their ordinances.
Perfect.
So we can build anything we want.
No, it's something like.
As long as you meet FAA compliances. I mean, if you,
Every landowner can say no, and they can't push their way through without permission.
I mean, if they can't buy any easements.
Right, still up to the landowners that are participating to say yes or no.
Absolutely.
Correct?
right,
Absolutely.
yeah, because there is no eminent domain on in the winter.
Your neighbors tell them you don't
yes,
want
sir.
Well, as long as you keep the neutral distance, people can work on it too, right?
That's all we're trying to do is facilitate.
You want it closer, you can sign a variance.
Just trying to facilitate.
Yep, we're trying to set it way out here. Yeah. And that's why we have that
So
zoning board.
and that's why I said,
If you had higher restrictions, you could still say yes, as long as everybody signed on. I'm just saying, it still come, what do you think?
Yeah, we're not stopping it.
But you still want
Obviously, that's what they're telling us.
Landowners to give the yes for it.
I think we need to look at the whole picture and just decide in the areas. I've been in this, you know that, Kyle, you've been around enough years. There's things out here, playing, there's things that's good. I think if you look at the situation, see the people, you got 30, 40 people living within 2 miles, probably not a good area. If you take an area that's 10 miles pretty well clear, and you can kind of hide them in the distance, you might have a good spot. We've got a lot of public areas, we've got a lot of cities, towns, small towns are dying, what are we gonna do? We're gonna have to do something to bring this back. Maybe we need something, maybe we don't need something. Those are the answers you gotta get. Small towns need something.
I get that, but as a board, and maybe it's just me, but you have that 10 square miles and you got one person that lives in there. And that one person is against whatever it is that's going in there.
You got it.
You know, so, but then you gotta, this is what we're faced with up here, is trying to figure that out.
How do we write that? You know, how do we, you know, our
We
verbiage.
can't stop private businesses
Yeah.
from land transactions from going on. We shouldn't, because that just opens us up to a whole new area we don't need to be in.
As we sit today, without any ordinance,
We're at the mercy.
We're at the mercy.
you're in a worse position.
the point I'm trying to make here.
We are, this is not developing an ordinance, right?
This is
just a
construction.
permit, right, this is
Certificate.
not an ordinance. So are we gonna write an ordinance after we do our constructions?
We shouldn't have to.
Okay.
Shouldn't
No.
have. So if we went
What are we
on,
gonna do?
so if we went to
This is
4,
the requirements to build.
because 3.5 was a number in my mind, because it wasn't the max number on what I seen on all them other ones, but it was a long ways from the low. So if you went at 4 from a non-owned and
Let's just table it.
Yeah.
Let's table it, talk about it later, because I don't know,
All right,
we brought it and we brought it and we just keep moving that goalpost.
Yeah.
We keep moving.
yeah, I mean, if we go to 4, so they'll want 4.5.
These guys come next week and lay out the plans, say, hey, we're building these towers, here's the spots. We're playing catch up again.
Yeah.
I mean, if we want 4, we can discuss it,
would you
but
be
there's
in
no sense
favor?
voting on something if we're gonna change it next week already.
But if we raise them?
What's gonna be the right number? If we move it to 4 next week, are we gonna have, well, 4.5 would be better. I don't know, that's. I think at one point in time, well, I know all of us were elected and we've all sat here and read over this and we thought these numbers were something that was workable.
Yeah,
And that's not gonna please everybody, I guarantee it. So we either table it or we take action on what we have. I mean, if it's obviously everybody thinks we need to increase them, maybe we better revisit it. But at some point in time, we're gonna be caught with our. We're gonna play catch up
Too little,
again.
too late.
Are we gonna add anything in about sound, or that's off the table?
What should we add? That if it excuse,
Well, something for protection, they go over.
when we were working with that one, 45 decibels was whatever we were shooting for.
Mhm.
And we achieved that. So we thought it would be good with this one. So now we gotta. That's why we put 45 in there. We had achieved 45 at one point. So do we change it now to something different?
I don't know, how far away was that wind turbine tie that you were saying next to the building? And you could.
I didn't measure, but I mean, it's,
But was it below 45 decibels? You could hear it,
No.
but it could have been
On the
under.
golf course. it's
At the golf course, about a half
And you
mile.
can
It's a half a mile.
Not the, we're talking about the motor thing that goes with it. Could you hear the motor on it?
Oh, I couldn't hear the motor. All I could hear was the swish of the
Right.
blade.
Oh, that's very.
That's
annoying,
right, but that's the
Yes,
45 decibels.
Last
It is
time,
the
yeah.
motor, it isn't, that's my.
Oh,
So,
we need to bring that in, so.
yeah, I apologize.
No, that's fine.
So in relation to incorporated or unincorporated areas, we have a mileage thing. How about using a mileage thing for everything? In other words, when you're talking about 4 times 650 is 2,600 feet, that's half a mile.
Okay.
How about using half a mile?
I
Instead,
think they did a multiplier, Kent, because if they change the height.
If we want to stay with a multiplier, but we can do the math backwards to try to figure something out.
Yeah.
I mean, if you build a personal one and it's 300 feet, you shouldn't have to be worried about a half a mile. You know what I mean? That's why we did the multiplier. Because there are people that build them for specifically for their personal use.
And the first wind towers, you look up by Peterson, they're just 150 foot tall.
Yeah.
That's like, that's where that 1,000 foot setback came in. So now as we start getting a 2.5, 3 kW, they're going 600, 700, 800 foot tall. So 1,000 foot, just barely out of the fall zone. So we just thought we'd put a multiplier in there so it adjusts accordingly, and we don't have to revisit it every time a new wind farm comes through and they say, well, we're gonna do 500 feet. So we give them the, okay, but by the time we come here, they're actually doing 650.
Well, that.
So, yeah, I mean, you're
They changed
gonna
the
be playing,
Yeah.
you gotta play the game, you're gonna,
With
It
Scout,
also
they changed it.
future-proofs a little bit.
right.
The
Yeah.
construction compliance, because as technology gets better, maybe the wind turbines grow higher. And with the multiplier, rather than a static number, you can account for the.
Well, we've seen that already with the west side wind farm.
Doing the plan while we're talking, they changed the motors and so then they were gonna need less, so the non-participant wasn't gonna have one close because they were gonna need as many, so
See,
that happened.
we
while
really
were
can't put
working on
any
it.
enforcement
They
stuff
can
on
do
this
it.
kind of paper. I
This
mean,
is a construction.
This is a
compliance
construction
agreement. This is
compliance. I
nothing-
mean, so we can't, there's nothing we could do for a penalty, but this is what we require is 45.
Penalty's gonna have to come.
And
in.
the only thing that I've seen different than 45, because actually the WHO says 45 is an appropriate number. But there's, like, Michigan went to 40 for night, 45 for day and 40 for nighttime. That was the only thing that I really seen different. And that was in that video that
So Kyle,
you're referring to.
if
I
we
believe.
pass this so that we have something on our books and everybody has a chance to read through it and then we come in and we want to change it, how complicated would that be? I just think we need to get something because right now we have nothing. And so this is a great place to start. Maybe not perfect, but it's better than just kicking the can down the road and finding ourselves that we have nothing. And so once the word gets out of the verbiage and exactly have a chance to do the math and look at it in the big picture, and if we have to change it,
No.
so be it.
Well, just
Yes.
taking the cues from today, I mean, we got a little more incorporated versus unincorporated. And then if we do that, we're gonna have to really define what unincorporated means.
Yeah, I brought that up.
Wayne and I looked into that.
Yeah.
There is areas that are, as Ty mentioned, there's areas that are unincorporated that have no structures.
Nothing.
And there's areas that are unincorporated, for instance, Burn and Brogan and Ells and, yeah.
Should they have more
And-
power than?
Yeah, and you know, and there may be one structure there, you know, so it's.
What's that, Riverview Estates or whatever, south
Yeah.
of
Oh,
town
yeah.
here, where there's 8
No,
houses?
that's just rural.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
Yeah, there's more. houses
there's
there.
more of a
Yeah.
community there than there is in
In Burn.
Brogan or
Right,
Burn
most of
or
our
whatever.
unincorporated areas.
And even
But it's
though they're
never been
unincorporated,
incorporated.
They do have a boundary.
Mhm.
So
I mean, I know it kind of goes against being unincorporated, but Dwayne did bring me.
that's what I'm,
Was it
So the
flat?
GIS map
They're
does show.
plotted at one time.
that's what I'm trying.
They
Yeah,
were
they were
plotted at one
platted,
time.
yes, they were, my guess is they were legal cities,
Mhm.
that they had,
At the time.
whatever you call it, a patent or whatever.
It's
that
like
is.
Boyer,
Pardon?
Boyer.
Yeah,
It was incorporated, now it's not.
Yeah,
That means we take care of it.
Riverview or whatever it was incorporated one time.
Huh?
That's how the town
That's just a
works.
subdivision, isn't it? Riverview, it's not an.
No,
It's never been a-
No,
But what I'm saying is,
Well, you look at.
that's got
It's got a bigger
more residents
population
than
than.
Burn does.
there's
And we're
20.
giving Burn
Yeah.
a 1 mile radius, but we're not giving that a 1 mile radius. That's what I'm trying to explain here.
It's less,
What defines?
Or you get down by Manila where, by the, plus the golf, there's 3 or 4 houses there.
Look at Astor, the old town of Astor that used to be out there, there's nothing there, but
But, yeah, but that was incorporated at one time, so it gets a 1 mile radius around it. But where Ranigers live, where there's what, 3 houses there, that gets nothing. So,
It gets the
O'Halloran.
3.5.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's like,
Walker.
And you guys as a board always have the opportunity to amend this, Whereas with, I think with an ordinance, you would have to publish it and
Yep.
go through the adoption, where I think doing it as the compliance certificate is probably
Let's
a
do
lot
it.
faster and.
Well, what about this?
If the board passes it today, it'll pass by motion. If the board wants to revisit it later, it would be amended by motion.
All right. I would like to get something on the books
let's do it.
so that
Let's
we
get something
are
done.
not just sitting here and then have another meeting. And if we need to amend it, at least we've got to start and we're not just sitting there doing nothing. I just,
Cullen, can we amend any of the numbers
We can change
on
them right
this?
now.
We can change some right now, couldn't we?
Yep.
If we wanted
make them
to.
higher now, knowing that that's kind of what we're leaning. towards.
Yeah, I mean, this was a
How's time
draft.
do it?
I mean, the agenda item is for the construction compliance certificate, not any particular one, but just a construction compliance
What
certificate.
if we did 3?
Let's make it higher.
This
Make it
is-
happen.
came to the draft. If it's the board's pleasure to revisit some of these numbers before passage, that's the board's.
We want to
pleasure.
do that.
Change the
Let's
numbers
do
to. That's suitable. So we can get something on the.
Okay, 4 there.
What about this one?
So we ain't got nothing now.
3.
3, yep.
And I'm still,
They
I
might
ain't
come
gonna,
in
I'm
tomorrow
a
and say, hey,
participating
we're gonna-
landowner. I just put that in there for.
So I'd like to know though, what.
We will.
yeah, what do you want to see?
No,
We're gonna let
No,
you
we'll
in
put
on it.
We'll let you in on it.
All right,
Nope, it's gonna be a secret.
okay.
It would be nice to.
All right, and if this doesn't make folks happy, be mad at me. All right, I'd make a motion that we adopt this zoning certificate, and I would like to have a change of the distance times 3 of the times on B.
B,
Okay.
Do 3 times the height of the turbine,
B to 3.
and I promise you this is gonna make Reuters, it already did. And on D, change it to 4 times the height.
4.
And them would be the only changes.
Well, this one.
Yeah, well, you're gonna do property
This one,
owners
this one
within
is that
4.
one.
Okay, yeah,
times-
change 4 times the height on the notification.
So D goes to 4, and then
And-
property owners within 4 times overall height of proposed wind tower with notification. of
Yeah,
verification.
notification, 4 times the height. Must be notified.
Can we add public buildings to additional separation distances?
Well, we'd have to really draft some language. to that.
Oh, never mind,
You can have-
okay.
I think we can add that later.
Schleswig reaches out about a half mile, all the way around,
Exactly.
squared it off. So they've got towers that are within on the first batch.
And Dave, you
But
know
then-
that like
Back then, we wouldn't know what the hell windmill was.
on the like Astor where there's nothing there, that has to come to us for variance, and obviously there's not gonna be any issue there.
Nobody there.
Nobody there to complain. Well, I shouldn't say that, but somebody would complain.
The decimals, to me, that's a legal issue where I don't know how other counties with ordinance have handled in the past. I don't think that's a sheriff department issue. I think that's a legal issue.
Well, it's civil legal.
Company.
And the
civil
land-
legal.
But that's in our ordinance.
Landowner or whoever.
And that's.
When that violates.
That is in our. ordinance.
Motion, it's in our,
We
it's in our.
Yeah, anyway, I made the motion with these changes.
We do have a motion on the table with those changes in.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the construction compliance wind tower certification with the changes as
3 on the
Yeah,
distance
3.
from the property line, 4 from the non-participating landowner's foundation, and 4 for notification. Did you get all that, Colin?
So under paragraph B, 2 changes to 3.
Correct,
Under paragraph D, 3.5 changes to 4.
correct.
And the last line of the
Conditional.
certificate says that for notice of the variance shall be changed from 3.5 to 4.
Yep, yes, sir.
Moved and seconded. We'll work on some of the, I mean, we'll have to do some more research on that. Any further in regards to what's in front of us with the changes? Just real quick.
I think the notice is one of the most important factors for the fact that that'll help you guys out as far as when you're alerted, you'll be able to go to neighbors that could be potentially participating and say, hey, this is why I'm for it or against, or I do want to go down the website. I think that's an important change.
Okay,
Is it enough? 4?
we got a motion and a second. So we'll find out if it's good enough real quick. Question has been called, so we'll proceed to vote on this application for wind tower construction compliance certificate with the amendments as stated. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Motion passed. Okay. Do some research on this.
I think that 45 works on everything, except for there was a variance for a nighttime work. You know, where there was.
Should be less.
Yeah, 40.
Colin, does our ordinance
All right.
say what the penalty is?
It's not an ordinance.
No, are the
Oh,
ordinance that we
construction
that we
appliance.
put in place, when we talked about the decimals last year?
And that was
Don't
just for the
recall,
work.
but I mean, anyone who's outside the parameter, first of all, the decibel level could be applied for as a variance. I mean, that's part of the variance request structure. I guess you could ask that the decibels for whatever reason. There's also language in there already that it can be waived by occupied residences, not just the landowner that it's on, but occupied residences, which accounts for neighboring landowners or non-participating landowners. Violations of the noise ordinance. Dwayne and I had a quick side conversation. We didn't explore that before this hearing. So this is grain of salt with this, but if you're outside the parameters of your building permit, it's subject to revocation. Now, the ramifications of that, I don't know yet. It could involve perhaps a civil lawsuit by the county to enforce the parameters that they agreed to ahead of time. But I can do some research and get back in front of the board.
Probably would be good to know what happens, because if they don't fit within it, and you go ahead and break it, what happens? Nothing.
Right.
So that's-
Well, I've gave 3 times on this, so.
You're good.
Thanks for everybody's input. I appreciate you guys' input. And I'm trying to find some sort of measure to keep both sides somewhat. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
They'll be understood.
Don't forget to go to the meeting.
Okay, discuss DL County 2080 agreement. Is this yours, Sherry, the driver's license county 2080 agreement?
Come on
I
down.
was thinking that's what it's gonna be.
It's taking up more of my screen here.
So I don't, I've taken this and passed it through legal, and they didn't see any issues. I just brought it in for signature. It doesn't appear to be any big changes, but the chairman of the board has to sign off on it. So
Are they willing to give you any more money?
no, not at this time.
What is it,
$7 for issuance, and then we're getting $25 for each test. So that's 3 tests, $75.
My question is, if I have to sign it, but there's no negotiation in the process, why do we have to sign it now?
We just have to
Yep.
agree to abide by the,
Right.
it's already in the existing, there really isn't. Yeah, it basically, the big thing to
Sign
me,
here.
yeah, the
Don't
big
you hate
thing to
those?
me is it's saying that we'll service anybody in the state of Iowa. To me, that's the biggest part of the 28 degree. We're at 28E, we're not turning anyone away regardless of their county.
Kyle's saying you will.
$25 days, guys.
Yeah,
I thought it was an agreement just saying we're still in, keep it in Crawford County.
And that,
Because if we don't sign that, we won't have driver's license. Crawford County, correct?
but one of the big things for a 2080 is we'll service anyone. And then it gives us, we
Any other
have to,
county.
any other county, we have to provide the training, we have to provide the office equipment, all at our expense.
Oh,
So I don't really think there's any big changes. And like I said, it did go through legal and there weren't any anything on there that alerted.
is there a way you can like change it to where it's Xed out and have like Crawford County put in there or? Because it's for generic at this time. I mean, is this something you can copy and paste X out?
We can just write Crawford County in there. I mean, I just have to email this back to, was it a PDF document that you can alter and make
That's
it
it.
say Crawford County?
Just look more official.
I don't know, I'm not.
I mean,
it's
I
not
signed
mine.
it. I'm just saying what the.
That's my document, not hers, so.
Yeah.
Me. Would you say we get $7 per license that we issue
Right,
and 25, what did you say that was for?
for each test, the skills, the,
CDL test.
right, the CDL test. And right now that's coming through us, but that's going to change. Soon we're gonna have to send all that to Des Moines and then they want more control of it, then they're gonna send us the money back. I can change
Great.
this and give you a copy of what it says Crawford County.
Awesome. Here, we're gonna, no, not, that's fine, sure, just the way they're gonna. Take the funds and-
Right, and right now.
Great. Hey, we're
right now
gonna
they're
do
all
some
coming to
property
us.
tax reduction, and we're gonna take this.
So it says discuss take action. Do we need to vote on signing that 2080?
Let's take a vote on it.
oh,
Okay, so I
no,
would so move that we sign or that we accept the DL County 2080 agreement in order to issue a driver's license. for Crawford
I'll
County.
second that. Let's just hope it passes.
If not, I'll turn this
Moved
back
and
in.
seconded to approve the driver's license county 2080 agreement. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Okay. Approval of contract between L&L Builder Company and Crawford County restroom renovation.
Thank you, Sherry.
Something that, just a formality of what we already agreed on, so I would look for approval of this.
I'm kind of ready for him to start last week.
Third time we've done that, isn't it?
It won't be like.
Yeah.
They can't start until they
It'll be
get,
in spring, probably March.
March.
because they can't start until what, they've got certain percentage of the stuff on hand, so.
Okay.
March.
Let's throw an ish on the end of that March-ish.
Going out there, guy named.
You want me to send you an email when we're done, Eric, so you can come use the
We'll
restroom?
have is there a motion to approve that contract?
I would so move.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Get them done.
Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay,
Citizen.
citizens input. Yeah, you have anything you want to add? Well, if you gotta add it, yeah. Dan?
I would just note that Mark McGurky back in June of 2021 said that they have trouble siting wind turbines at 3 times tower height, and that they would just go somewhere else at 4 times.
Point taken.
And maybe we,
Maybe we
And
over.
also, I mean, I don't know if it's true, or most sections owned by different property owners in the county. I mean, most 1 mile sections, the next section.
There's a few that are owned 100% by one exclusive landowner, but the majority of them are.
right,
Most have multiple properties.
right. and one
Higher
section that
percentage is
is
owned by multiple.
So the new requirement for 3 times the height from a property line now pretty much reduces it to 1,000 foot square in the middle of 1 mile sections.
Unless they sign off on it.
They get a variance.
Yep, pretty much.
But I mean, clearly some people just don't want them at all in the county, whether it's on their property or.
I think you're gonna have a few, but I don't think you'll have as many that don't. I think you'll have as many that wanna negotiate, but they'll want comp. You know, when I remember Aaron's biggest thing. I mean, obviously, one of it was when he's out playing with his kids, not having that out there. But the biggest thing that he kept bringing back up in private calls was that his property value was now down. And if he could be compensated for that, you know, like if, okay, let's just say his house is worth $100,000, but now because of the windmill, it's worth 75. So if he could get 25 plus whatever other inconvenience monies they're willing to pay, then he would have probably, and I'm just using, you know, well, I'm generalizing the heck out of that, but you see what I'm getting at? That seemed to be one of his biggest concerns, was his property value being destroyed. So this here is, gives you some room to negotiate that loss, at least at that particular point in time. I mean, as values go up, you want to sell it right away to get that money to work for it. Does that make sense? That was one of my theories in that.
Well, I don't have any skin in the game either way. I'm just pointing out what Mark Wonderski said a year and a half ago, which is at 4 times they go somewhere else.
And I don't know that they will now, with what that young lady was saying. They only need 34 towers to do it. Them guys are going 90 something. So now you don't need as much room.
But they're taller.
And they gotta be a little further back, but
they can also go in and they can negotiate with those landowners if they want them to be closer than that.
If the
They can-
landowners.
Right, if they want to agree to it.
And some of them
If they
do.
want turbines in the county.
Exactly, the
Some
people
of
that
them
really, because to me,
Oh,
there's some wide open spaces out there where nobody's
I think they
living, where
should start
houses
building nuclear power generation.
dot the countryside where nobody's there anymore.
Okay, I will make a comment.
I don't know. I mean, nobody wants anything, but they all want their cell phones charged and they want, their cars gotta be electric and it's like, what? There's gotta be a give and take here somewhere.
I need Eric.
So
We're
my-
going to be all electric cars by 30, 35. We better start building, otherwise we're all gonna be riding a lot of horses.
I'm okay with that.
I'm fine with that too, but.
So my cousins inherited farms, one on one side of 141, one on the other, Credos.
Yeah.
And he works in a nuclear plant for the last 35 years, going, I will never approve a wind turbine. Why aren't we going nuclear? It is so much less invasive. When you said we need to be green, why are we not considering other options and getting rid of these
They're not
things?
They're not coming to us.
They're not being
We
subsidized.
haven't,
Yeah, they're-
Yeah.
I mean, but still, I mean, that's just.
The only thing I have with the nuclear is what gets the spent rods and all that, and
Well,
then
what do you think, Bud? I mean,
There's
some-
arguments
They're in
on
a
this both
temporary,
ways.
they've been in a
Solar
temporary
panels.
storage for the last 40 years.
now, I will tell you, I was doing some research on solar because of this, because I wondered if we got to do a separate ordinance. And that the chemicals that are in the panels themselves get into your drinking water, we're not drinking.
That's on solar?
Yeah.
That's on solar, but
I
also
didn't
on
know
the
that.
turbines, they're, when they spin off the little pieces of plastic, and that's going into all of our water too. I mean, we're gonna have undrinkable water.
Show me the money, Jerry. That's where they're, you follow the money, you'll follow why we're doing what we're doing. On everything,
And if the.
on everything. It's not just energy, it's everything.
It's everything.
We're not trying to make Crawford County closed for business, but we're trying our damnedest to give everybody a voice, you know, and obviously, we gave again today. You know, and I hope that's not frowned upon, and it probably will be. Now everybody will be mad.
Well, we have achieved 100%.
Yeah, everybody's mad. We're doing a good job.
Anybody else? Citizens input? Jake?
Just kind of giving you guys a heads up.
Heads up.
Been working on the Dave's and Craig's surfaces and setting them up for whatnot. So that's not going unnoticed and we're getting that going. I talked with Jerry and I'm gonna give Jerry's surface to you, Dave, and then I'm talking with Craig, so.
Should have Eric's.
I'm sorry.
You should have Eric's.
You already have.
Oh, yeah, Eric's. That's.
You had that long
You've
time.
never had it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
So,
long time ago.
But there's that.
Like this.
Just-
Office
and just a little-
365 tomorrow.
I'm sorry.
Office 365 tomorrow.
We're doing an IT committee budget meeting tomorrow.
You're switching.
I thought you were cutting over to everybody office.
Oh,
365.
there's that too, yeah.
Oh,
That little, that's gonna be minimal though. You're not gonna see an impact with that. So it's just no more forwards or auto forwarders or auto responders.
IT budget meeting. God, I just had a meeting with you, didn't we?
I can't be there tomorrow.
Bring that no button.
The other thing is there's the RFP for the server room over at City Center and the security
Yes.
over there. I'm planning on putting that in the paper next week. And we went over it a couple weeks back. The only thing I've done really to it is just like made it grammatically correct and punctuation, so it's readable.
Don't put the whole notice in the paper.
No, no.
Okay, thank you. That'll come out of your budget.
Fair enough. No, I drafted a little bit of a,
Notice.
Dan would like to see it in here.
Blurb.
Yep. So to put it in the paper, so.
Perfect.
And I'll be ready to go here for next week
Good
when
catch.
Tuesday's papers get published. So,
So who do you think will bid on that? I mean, do you have any names in mind or?
I don't think anybody, I mean, there might be a few people that might be local, but I am betting that we're not gonna see a local contractor.
Well, but do you know if the people that you feel are gonna be interested will get that notification that you don't have it and nobody comes? You've been there before.
Yeah, so I've been talking, like, our main vendor is Verkada, that we've got built into that RFP.
Okay.
And I've solicited Verkada for resellers around the area, and I do plan on submitting them, giving it to them as well.
Can we
So,
do that?
I think you have to be careful on that because you
Yeah.
can only give it to one person.
I'm not giving it to one person, it's
Okay.
going to multiple individuals.
I was gonna say, because then somebody's gonna come and
Because I know that
say,
could show bias,
there
absolutely.
you go.
Yep, so, but yeah, I just want to give you guys a heads up about that RFP. It is gonna be set up next week, going out to the local papers and going from there, so. And lastly, I was hoping to take vacation at the end of this.
Oh, no.
There's no way in hell.
Just the last week between Christmas and New Year's, so.
As long as you're covered.
What's that?
Isn't that a
You got
blackout?
your
plan?
backup plan on the place, so.
Yeah, I'm not leaving the local area. I think I might go one day to Omaha, but
Oh,
it's not gonna be, and I don't even know if that's gonna be on, we're gonna be open, it might be the 26th.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I'm gonna be in Schleswig the entire time. So if
I
you guys
spent a
need-
long amount of time in Schleswig. I ain't in very good shape. You better be in a straight and narrow, everybody.
Oh, I'm gonna have to do some jogging and everything and make sure I stay active. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of fill you guys in and let you guys know that those things are, going out at this point. And
Okay.
so, unless you have anything to add to it that I might need to consider or anything like that.
cool.
Yeah.
Emails won't be set up for Greg or Dave until probably towards the end of this month,
What?
because I gotta take
Take shoes off.
steel from Peter to Bay Paul. So Jerry's got a current license. So I'll have to divvy that out. So, but that's all I have. So thank you.
Madam Auditor,
So your issue
The other
date
thing-
on your RFP is December 12th,
Yes, it
and
is
the middle date is January 10th.
18.
We'll be in
18.
Reuters.
We
already were.
Well,
That's
with
'cause
that,
we were
it's,
considering.
the middle date is the 10th. We open on the 18th.
Open on the 18th.
Yeah, my apologies on that.
that it?
Yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, nobody else has anything? I will entertain a motion to
Make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Moving and second to adjourn, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
I.
Aye. All opposed?
Thanks. Thanks, Dwayne.
Have a dentist
Thanks,
appointment.
Tom.
Did you sign for Sherry? What form? I have a form that looks,
Yeah, I did.
it looks, I don't know if it's.
I signed two of them.
Does it say
Thank
It's
profit
this,
on it?
it's, there's a blank, but there's no X's. But you refer to it.
There was one that had a bunch of X's.
Yeah, that was like with a bunch of crosses and the paragraphs and everything. Yeah, that was to show the differences and the revisions made. But did she give you something clean like this too?
This was the second one I signed.
Oh, okay. I'm not saying you need to sign this, but I'm just saying you, when you mentioned about the X's, I was like, well, I have them without the X's. If you want to sign that.
All right.
All right.
So that's why I was questioning that. It was like, I wanted to
They
be-
say the same thing, just one looks better than the other one.
Yeah, but there is.
Date Thursday at
Yeah,
one.
they're the same document, but one shows, crosses out the revisions, and this one's spacing is more readable.
Thanks.
Signed up.
Sorry.
Signed up.
She wasn't-
And when,
What?
yeah, he said he has. He registered, but he hasn't.
Did you keep that from last time, or is that new?
Yeah, I'm saving the county money.
Ah,
How's he doing that?
He has his own name. Because his name's kind of long.
I don't think I would keep the thing that stands up. I was having, I was having problems with my office.
Amazon probably has.
The funeral home probably has one.
Oh, there you go.
She knows there's no way half the nuclear's coming here though. That's why she was for that, 'cause it ain't half.
Hello, are you back in town?
I think it's a smart move by the county.
Oh, what do I got?
Park benches in here.
Right.
It limits the time people want to sit in them and talk about agenda items. It was nice and cushy. Hey, people put their feet up. Hey, look, it works, yeah. Works on my back for sure. Yeah.
Something finally paid off.
Well.
I got your picture.
Oh, she's back now.
It's all filled out.